Oh. Oh. Welcome, Brother Ethan. Welcome, everybody. You hopped in right at the end of our tune-in and laughter session, so feel free to laugh as much as you would like, if you would like. So, yeah. Aloha and welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining into Corona Conversations number 5. Yeah, I think everybody here has been, except for Emily. Emily's the only new one. So grateful to have you here, Emily, and grateful to have everyone back again for another conversation. Loving how these have been flowing. Last week was a super deep one, like went to a lot and got to experience a lot of new ways of communication as we like really expanded the group once again and experienced all these different energies. And so I'm really appreciating the flow of all of it. And so I'm going to just sort of do another little opening, speak sort of the intention for this meeting, tie in a little bit of last meeting, and then we'll do some opening introductions. So thus far, we really like dove into fear, into belief, into balance, into communication, into a lot of these different ideas and seeing how it's playing into our experience right now with all the coronavirus. And so for this one, we're kind of leaving the intention open, seeing what it is that we all want to talk about. I know there was a lot of interest in talking about community, how we're bringing community together, how we're really cultivating community through all of this, as well as communication. And in another chat we were doing sort of tangential or more parallel to this, we were also talking about like this idea of even using the virus as a metaphor of like spreading, and how we can bring about community through a similar kind of metaphor, how we can bring in ideas of a new paradigm, bring in ideas of like new metaphors for looking at life, like the metaphors that have been used for a long time of things like Earth as our mother, and like these sort of metaphors, how these metaphors can benefit us in helping us to relate to life in a new way, and what it would look like to spread these metaphors, to spread these ideas, to spread sort of a new paradigm, a new way of looking at things. And there was even an exploration of how we would do that in a way that's kind of like a virus, how we can make something so contagious that it can spread, an idea can spread throughout the earth. So those were some parallel conversations that I've been having related to this. And so now I'm sort of tying all that in here and seeing where we want to go from this, how we want to look at maybe that idea of contagion, how we want to look at what's happening with the coronavirus, how we want to look at communication, how we want to look at community, how all of this plays into what we're experiencing here and now. And it's going to be a very open dialogue where we can all sort of bring in whatever we're feeling, and what we would like to discuss and look deeper at, and then see where it wants to go. So we're going to open with some introductions, where each one of us can just popcorn style, each person calls in the next, goes and has an opportunity to introduce themselves and share a little bit of what's present, what's alive, what is your present experience with all of this, what are you diving deeper into, and what would you like to dive deeper into in this container that we are all here now cultivating. So yeah, that's a little bit of that. And just we're going to introduce some ideas to just help create a clear code container. I feel like we've got a pretty small group that already feels to me very coherent here, which feels really good. But just things like remembering to speak more from personal experience, more I statements than you statements, like being careful about what we're projecting, being careful about what we're bringing in as belief into the field and what we're speaking as our present experience. Remembering to listen to understand someone more so than we're listening to respond, like listening for our opening to reflect back, and sharing more from an empathy space, empathizing with other people's experience more so than giving advice to other people. So those are just some general ideas that we're bringing into the space. We're not here to to police anybody or tell anybody how to be. I've tried that in the past and it doesn't work. And so trying to just cultivate a space of coherence and authenticity where we can all come and share. So that's sort of what we're doing. And from this, I guess we'll go into introductions. So I'll start. We'll say my name is AG, and yeah, I'm really appreciating finding more of a sense of flow and balance in a lot of areas of my life. Things seem to be coming into more coherence. Things seem to be moving deeper. As things are coming up, I'm finding that they're easier. There's a greater sense of ease in working through challenging situations. And I'm noticing a lot of acceleration in various aspects of my purpose and in what I'm creating and in conversations like these ones, but also other ones. And so I'm just noticing a real sense of deepening. And so I'm excited to explore that and explore how we can sort of cultivate that sense together and explore more of what this is together. So that's me, and we'll hop over to Mandy for a second.
Mandy, you're muted.
Hey guys, my name is Mandy. And I'm feeling similar energies, like feeling really supported, especially the month before. And now with this month, I feel like I'm just totally transforming and totally changing into exactly what I'm supposed to be. But a lot digitally, and that's what I was going for anyways. But it's like really pushing me to just be even more creative and expand more, and I feel really supported and confident with all the things that have been leading up to the times that we're in now. My belief is so strong that I know I'm supported, and I know that everything is going to work out, and I'm feeling really positive, a lot of energy. So trying to share that with others, you know, balance out the emotions.
And you get a call on someone to go after you.
Michael, you're next.
Aloha, my name is Michael. I'm located in Arkansas. In this moment, I'm feeling some sunburn on my face, and it's kind of like predominating my consciousness, my awareness right now. I've been in the garden, which is my first time ever gardening, so resonating and reflecting a lot of what has been said already of diving into new projects, feeling a lot of excitement and being able to do things that bring about my highest excitement. I've noticed a pretty deep restructuring of my view of the world and the way it works, especially in recent days. And that seems to be a pattern that is repeating itself every few days. I'm coming into like completely new belief systems or shattering belief systems and restructuring the way I see the world. And it's a little bit confusing, and I am really enjoying getting to see so many different realities all at once and kind of like colliding. It's I see beauty in the chaos, I guess is where I'm at right now. Thank you. Ethan, what's up?
Can you guys hear me? Awesome, good. Thank you guys for sharing so far. Yeah, I'm Ethan, and let me think here. So I think the most predominant thing that I'm working with right now is taking full responsibility for what I'm doing in life and for the people around me as best I can. I got married in September, and I have 2 stepkids. And the biggest thing for me is wrestling with the responsibility of the now while trying to restructure, as Michael put it, my future to accommodate my responsible purpose purpose-led dreams, I suppose. And I think that's the biggest thing where I'm at. And we talked about balance last week, and I'm balancing like very grounded responsibility with the creative and imaginative dreams I'm wanting to pursue. And I think that's very poignant in this time where we're looking at the immediate now and what we can do to move forward as individuals in this time. Yeah, so I think that's that's pretty much it. Just taking as much responsibility as I can at the moment. I've recently started a new job at a company called True Green, and it's basically just lawn care. I mean, it's very outside of what I would want to pursue as a free individual who could just choose whatever they wanted. But like the idea that I'm now responsible in a huge way for other people is grounding me in a way that I've needed for a very long time. And on top of that, I'm doing research on how to create a garden, on how to work into projects that will feed others other than myself. So I think that's about it. So thank you guys. And I will go with Emily.
Hi, thanks. Can you hear me? So my name could say is Emily. I'm currently in Pennsylvania. I just kind of got the call to move here on the equinox or new moon. That whole week was just feeling the move happen. I kind of feel like things are just happening and I'm just following the call, you know. And essentially it was a big move because I just left working in the hospital as a nurse, as a labor and delivery nurse, and I was actually planning to leave beginning of March. I left into the middle of March as this was all stirring up, coming on strong. And I find it really interesting that we ended up at this cabin with no floor. We're finishing taking out the floor. And so it's an opportunity to literally rebuild from the foundation up. We have to like drain the foundation and remember all the things I've learned about natural building to build an earthen floor that won't mold. And also find it interesting that so many people are now feeling, yeah, you know, it's really gnarly what's been going on in the birthing realm in the hospitals. And it's also really awesome. And now more and more people are questioning if or when they want to go to a hospital, right? So, and who they want to support them and how they want to be supported and honored in that whole deep journey. So I am feeling like it's time to move into really building that foundation of this future birthing center that I've been having pretty clear visions of for years now. And I know it's not just me, so I'm feeling the call to connect with others who are stoked about that and want to find a way to dedicate ourselves to that. And it's much more than a birthing center. That's another conversation, but you know, it's much more. It's really about building community and growing food and just allowing people the experience of, you know, like these really most powerful moments of our lives, like birthing and dying and all these DMT, you know, I don't know why that just came out of my mouth. These rites of passage that DMT is released during labor and dying, and it's so it reminds me of Gabriel's post about holding space for this trip that we're all on. When things get really intense, like where do we want to go? How do we want to be held? And how are we going to show up for that? And what are we doing to prepare for that? And now that we have this moment, like, how do we want to really organize and blueprint? And also, like, what practical steps do we feel inspired to take? And how can we support each other in that? Because you can't build a house by yourself or community. And I feel like building community, the first and foundation is like being able to have really deep conversations, counsel. So I'm really grateful that we're all here. Do you want to say anything?
You passing it to me?
I'm going to pass it to Jimmy.
Hey guys, my name's Jimmy. Similar boat as Emily. I'm living in a floorless cabin with Emily, who's my love. And it's required a bit of adjusting to get used to living here. It's been pretty cold because we have no floor and we're sitting next to this fire, which is nice. But yeah, kind of getting into the rhythm of the day has sometimes been a little bit challenging because it's a new place and we're a little physically uncomfortable and there are like mice in here and stuff. But I think we finally got a nice rhythm going, and we've got a nice plan for where our floor is going to go. So that feels really good. For me, though, in terms of the topic, like coronavirus, world events, what this means for humanity and for us and for everything, what sparks my particular interest is what to do that will help the working class and many people who are economically affected by what's going on, and also, like, similar to Emily, what practical steps can be taken to help people in that realm. Like my stepdad just lost his job, and yeah, it's so strange with organizing, like maybe like organizing a rent strike or a debt strike or even like a workers strike. These things, it seems like, because the political foundations of our society has become a little shaky, it seems like a really good time to do some of these things. Yet, because we can't really do much face to face, it also seems like it's more difficult to organize in that way. So I think it would be really interesting to explore what kind of approach we can take to organizing ourselves to put more and more pressure on the existing political systems that are oppressing people. So yeah, I'm kind of just holding that question. Thank you all for being on this call and accepting me as a sort of surprise guest.
Yeah. And also building up our own, like if we were going to build our own systems or, start to plant seeds for our own systems, what is that actually like right now? And how do we have that like inoculating in place as things change so quickly? And one more thing is that when we got here, there was a mouse family giving birth on our bed. So that was really cute.
What wasn't cute was how we.
Right, all right. Much love.
Who's next then?
Oh, let's see. And pass it to Katie.
Hey, thanks, both of you. I really appreciate what each of you had to say. I am Katie. I'm in Boulder, Colorado. Yeah, today was an interesting day. I feel like I mostly just like sat around. I didn't really, I don't know. It was a pretty lazy day. And I was just kind of processing a lot. Like, I'm going to be moving tomorrow, and that's going to change my entire reality. And I'm feeling like, I don't know, just seeing you two in this cabin with this fire, and like that is so where I want to be right now, like with my love in the cabin in the fire, even if there was no floor. That just sounds beautiful. And now I have to separate from my love and perhaps be social distancing for a while just because of things that are happening. And it's that reality is like, I don't know, it's just a lot because we've been together through this whole thing. And I'm actually feeling like there's an importance to that in like, you know, building up my personal resilience, grounding in with a new community. Yeah, it's just interesting. This like, I just keep saying through all of this, like letting go of our need to control as the medicine, like really letting go of our fear around loss of control. And just this little piece is like, okay, now it's another layer of that, because I'm choosing, like this was a choice that I made a while ago, and it made sense when the world was in a different space. And so I'm just trusting that it's still, you know, all in this flow. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like, you know, in a place where I'm happy to be in this conversation and also a little bit tired. And I'm just here to be exactly as I am right now. And just to say one more thing is those questions of organization and coming together through like, and not being able to be physically together, and like those questions are just running through my mind so much right now. Like, how much are we going inward and really having our own personal like experience, and then how much are we organizing? What does it mean to organize? I don't know. I keep coming back to this thing of like totally releasing from everything that's organized. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to pass it on now because I've just been rambling. So let's go. Caitlin, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Caitlin. Thank you so much, Katie. It's an honor to be here and to be in this space, and I wanted to say thank you so much for just being here as you are, because that gives us so much grace and space to just be wherever we are. So I really appreciate you saying that, and I really feel for where you're at right now in your situation, and thank you so much for sharing. I am in Greeley, Colorado, so I'm about 40-ish minutes away from Katie. And let's see, I am a mama to a 8.5-year-old angel who's wonderful. And have just been in this space lately where, you know, I don't have childcare anymore. And I've had childcare since he was 6 weeks old of some form or another. And I live with my parents, and my parents are home working, and my brother is here. And so there's just a lot of us in one space and all learning kind of how to navigate our new home life is really interesting. And I'm learning how to like accept my, I guess, inability to do some things that I would like to be during this time. You know, whether it is taking more time to go inward or taking more time to go outward and work on projects that mean a lot to me, or you know, give something to the world during this time, which is what I feel so called to do. This is the first time that I've been able to be here at my laptop in the evening for like many days. And so I think that I've just been going through a lot of like, do I know how to be a mom right now? And do I know how to be a mom without childcare? And do I know how to show up well for my family right now and to use the tools that I've been cultivating for so long? And how do I handle like my identity when I feel like I want part of my identity to be wrapped up in how I can show up right now? And if I'm not showing up the way that I want to, just like processing that. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Um, I'm gonna pass it to. Oh, and I was watching on Facebook, but only as about like 12 minutes in, so I'm not totally sure of some of the other people who may have introduced themselves already.
Tina, Paul, and Eka still have to go.
Tina.
And Tina.
Yeah, I said Tina, Paul, Eka.
Oh, sorry.
Then I'm probably gonna need to pass it to Tina.
Yeah, I thought so.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tina. Grateful for being here. Grateful that you are all here. And thank you, AG, for the invitation. Do appreciate it. I haven't been able to make it to the last couple, but I am so eager to see what's going on. I didn't get to actually watch the beginning of it because I was busy working, but and I don't even know what questions I'm supposed to be asking. So, AG, will you shed some light on that for me real quick?
Yeah, we're leaving it kind of open. Just introducing yourself, where you're at, what's been going on in your experience is really the big part of it. What's been your experience?
Okay. My experience since all this wonderful, crazy stuff has been happening is, well, I just had purchased a building and was renovating it for a space for myself. And now I've found that it's kind of like, I look at it in two different ways. It's almost, it's it's like my home, my haven, but right now I kind of feel like it's my prison at the same time, if that makes sense. Because I'm dealing like the rest of you kind of with these emotions and these emotions. I'm alone. I've been divorced for 3 years. So I think that that's the part of me that I wish that I had someone to pull out a game board and, play a game with, or, play cards, or even cook with, or cook for. Um, and up until the time that I had to stay here, I didn't think about those things so much because I was always out in the community doing things or seeing my family, or, those kinds of things. Um, so it definitely kind of put relationships into perspective for me, not just, a personal significant other, but just relationships, period. It's really kind of made me appreciate my kids and my grandbabies more. Um, Wishing that I could be with them and hold them and kiss them. And um, so it's definitely put all of that into perspective. But at the same time, I have a lot of work to do here. So I've got a lot done, and working on a project right now that I love, and I think that will um, help humanity as a whole. So that's keeping me busy in my mind and my fingers. And I don't know, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just trying to stay balanced, really, through it all. I have found uh, I did start meditating again, which is something that I had lost for a while there in my busy life, and that's been really nice. And now I feel it again. Like I'm sure a lot of you meditate, but you know how when you don't, it literally calls you. And so I'm starting to feel that call again, which is kind of nice and refreshing, and um, it's very nice. But that's kind of where I am. Nothing too crazy going on here. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Oh, I have to pass it to, and I'm sorry I didn't get who, Paul.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Tina.
Hello, everyone. All right. Is everyone available to listen to me? All good? Okay. Well, I'm so glad to be here in this beautiful space with all of you. Um, every time I check in here, I always learn a little bit new about the whole tribe, and it seems like the tribe is always growing. I love meeting new people, and I think that's what all these conversations have kind of been about. And if you haven't met me, in Green Bay, Wisconsin, um, kind of got warm out today, so I was just breathing the beautiful air, and yeah, it's the sun was out, and whatever latitude you guys are all at, I am so excited for spring. And for me, this spring has been a lot about my own seeds. So ideas that I've kind of been holding on, these seeds that I haven't really been growing. And these are like um, like ideas that the universe has gifted me and has entrusted me to hold on to, but I haven't planted them. And so it sounds like all of you, everyone's um, kind of presented a seed, and whether you're growing a new center or whether you're going on this new journey, I'm so happy to be here cultivating this giant garden Gaia with all of you. So for me, what the universe is kind of bringing in is that I need to plant, like I need to get these ideas in some kind of um, 3D path that the timeline will start to see these ideas kind of start to grow. And for me, that's a software company. And so for a long time, I've worked on these ideas. And for me, I think just aligning with all of you, kind of just feeling this energy of support is really, that's all that's necessary. It's kind of like this warm sun, this loving kindness. And so I'm happy to be here sharing loving kindness with all of you and planting these seeds. So thank you. And let's see. Did Chai Dananda.
Hi, Chidananda.
Nanda, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too, man. Um, I. It's great that so many of you have expressed some somewhat concrete directions that you seem to be led or pulled into, and that's great. Um, I don't feel anything of that nature yet, at least not outwardly. But I mean, look, this is some. I mean, we're doing shadow work here. We're doing individual shadow work. We're doing planetary shadow work. Um, we are we are facing our deaths. We are facing our ultimate. I mean, our worldview is dying, both collectively and individually. And it is in these moments when I mean, our culture is not, we are not comfortable at all with facing death. We don't talk about death. We hide from death. We run from death, anything like that. We're a culture of distraction. And now that's been taken away from us. And this is hard, man. This is some hard work to really. So that's what I mean, I'm really just kind of focusing on learning how to be with myself. And a lot of stuff is coming up. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you don't face because you're busy, or you keep being busy, and you keep moving quickly. And having to sit quietly and accept these things is really rough, is really hard, but it is absolutely essential. It is a gift that we've been given. And what however we come out of this, we have to come out of this as a collective. and the healthiest collective is going to be if all the different parts of the collective are healthy. So I mean, now's the time. Do your work, whatever it means to you. I feel really blessed because I have I have a spiritual team puts out like 40 days of teachings right around this time. So that's happening right now. So, up in the morning, and it's all going on Zoom as well. Up in the morning, meditating, later on in the day, having, talking about spiritual aspects. So it's like, for me, it's just like really perfect to have this happening right now, because for me, this is exactly what I need, and what I think a lot of people need. I also, if this evolution is to, let's assume that we're going to evolve to the next stage, um, it's, everybody has to get something out of this, has to get some growth out of this. It can't be anymore, we're going to elect the right person who's going to do this thing and it's going to be fine. That shit is done. I mean, we can have there's a better person. It's always good. We can have someone who will help facilitate it. But this whole idea of we're sitting back and this person is gonna make it right, or that shit is done. And the only way that we are gonna evolve to this next stage is when we're on the edge of the fucking cliff. That's human nature, and we're being pushed, not just with this current here we had this administration here already, and that was enough, and now we have this as well. So we are, man, it's that's the script that's unfolding, man. We are gonna get pushed all the way until I don't know, until we really, 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 really wake up individually, collectively. And I wish everybody the best. That's, yeah, thanks. Okay. I came in kind of late, so
Just Jose left. Jose, if you wanna hop
oh,
in.
Jose, yeah, there he is.
There, I'm not sure if you've been. I think you got a lot of it on the Facebook stream. So if you want to
Hey, thank you for sharing. Yeah, how's it going? Sorry, I know it's a little dark over here. Yeah, I just wanted to share. Thank you for making this call. Currently in Ocala, in a land where there's a few people that have come together to live in community, and I just wanted to share that for the first time in my life, I've been feeling called to start taking action in the things that I've been dreaming about for a while now. And I can say that I know many people and I have many friends that have been sharing this vision for us to come together. And sure, it might not be the appropriate time according to being careful to maybe go off somewhere to live on land right now. I'm not saying that. However, it's clear to me that at this point, it needs to happen for all of the earth to live in harmony. Like, it needs to take each and every one of us to make a choice to live the life that we've been wanting to live, and that knowing that we're going to be guided to come together. Honestly, I arrived here last night in this land, and there was only 2 friends here, and now there's actually a couple more people that have come together intentionally through spreading the word that we just want to kind of build community and plant seeds. And overall, what we're wanting to intend here is to seize the opportunity that we're being given, because we're having a time to face all of the things that we've been bypassing, all of the things that we've been saying we want different. It's time for us to make that difference, to create that change for ourselves and together. So I want to encourage all of us to come together in one way or another, even if we're not leaving our houses, to be able to start communicating and giving structures to how we can create the world that we all want to live in once and for all. Like no more waiting or turning the other way where things are, when we're not all happy. Now we're having a good way to level out, to say that the whole world is inequality here. There's nobody that's needs more or less. Like all need the same amounts. We all have the same amount of needs, and we all are worthy of having more than enough. And to conclude that, I just want to note that I've realized for a while that the systems that are in place haven't been beneficial to all of us. They've been quite one-sided per se, to where one person might be benefiting or a couple people aren't benefiting, but not everybody. So if we're wanting to go back into that reality, thinking that it's accessible to us and that it's still gonna work, I just want people to know, like, it's been obvious to me for a while. I don't know who else is with me. I hope more than just me, and I know I have a lot of friends that are already in this mentality. But to be honest, now is the time to direct our focus to what we want to create now and what we want to utilize this as. Do we want to say, oh, is this the fall of humanity, or do we want to sprout something new from this? From the ashes of what's gonna come, we're gonna keep coming. We're together, in any way possible, is my offering and my welcoming to everybody that may be listening. And again, thank you everybody for sharing your time and your space and communication. And if you're watching this, I just want you to know you're not alone. This is all of us are in this together now, and what's coming through is just answer the call, whatever the call is in your heart that you've had for however long you may have been aware of it. Maybe now you are more than ever. Maybe it's coming for the first time. In whatever way you feel guided to, you're supported and loved, and you will make it so. And so it is. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Jose. And thank you everyone for sharing all that you shared. Let's do a few breaths. Really integrate all that everyone just shared, and like just breathing in anything we really felt like we just received such gold from someone, just breathing that in, integrating it.
Can we have one more introduction?
Did I miss someone?
Yeah, Terry.
Oh, wonderful. Yes.
Oh, light.
Hold on just a second. Well, you can see me all right, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm Terry. I kind of actually seeing this as a very, very positive thing right now. It almost like felt like it was for the light workers to kind of dissolve a lot of the other distractions and allow us to focus and come together. But I liked what, let's see what was it, Emily or something? The birthing deal? Second one up there. Yeah, Emily. I actually have been working on getting a community together for like the last 6 years or so. That was when I had my first like spiritual awakening into this whole deal. But I like got a fundraiser going and stuff right now for $500,000. I've been doing nothing but learning, what we need to do through the last 6 years. I have a lot of really good information. I'm a healer myself, so I learned a lot of the healing properties and healing arts. But I do believe it's time for us all to come together, and there's a real good reason why I met Yogi Mandi here, and also why I'm meeting you all. So, like I said, I do know a lot of the structure on how to do it, and I've actually started to learn a lot about marketing and things lately. So I think together we can all really get something going here. I'd like to start with, one property in one state, and then kind of move to having, eventually probably the whole United States trying to switch over to what we all are trying to do, But I think it's going to start the best individually, but also figuring out a state that we would all be comfortable being in. My vision originally, when I was told that I was supposed to be doing this, was that it would be high in the mountains. Colorado was what came to at that time, but I've learned to try to be a little bit more flexible on that, because it's honestly more important about the people than it is the place itself. But I do believe high elevation is supposed to be a factor. But yeah, otherwise, this is totally a good time for us right now. We just got to remember to stay positive and do the light work. Shadow work isn't even necessary anymore. Just focus on the light part of it, the good part of it, what we want to achieve, not what we want to no longer exist, right? I think it was Socrates said, the secret to change is focusing all of your attention on building the new and none of it on fighting the old. So I don't know. I guess that's all I got to say for now. I got a little nervous once I got on the camera. Thank you for the space.
Thank you all for sharing. Let's let's just take a few breaths. Just deep breath in, deep breath out. Inhaling and exhaling. See what we want to keep, what we want to integrate from what's been shared. And see what we want to release. See if there are any old beliefs that we've been carrying around that we can let go of. See if there's any old thoughts we've been carrying around that we can let go of. Just continuing to bring in and integrate any good shares that we really want to keep with us, and relaxing and letting go of anything that we don't need anymore, anything that's keeping us from being fully present with each and every individual here.
Hi, Katie again. I want to say thank you to everybody and bringing yourselves to this space. It's not necessarily easy. Anyway, some things that really stood out to me. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, Chidananda. I just really appreciate you bringing it to this recognition of the deep work that is needed at this time. And as well, Jose, yeah, there's parts of me that's like, I don't know if we should be coming together physically, but just your invitation was so beautiful. And I feel so deeply like where your heart is in desiring to build something really beautiful. And if that's where you're being called, then I honor that. And I thank you. I apologize, and I say this with a lot of respect and humility, but it really hurt my heart to hear you say that this is a good thing that's happening for light workers. I think that's a very dangerous place to get into. This is happening to everyone, for everyone. It is not a good, there can be, beauty, but there's a lot of pain. And as light workers and healers, I believe that we must humble ourselves, and we are holding space for something really big. And there's already been a lot of death, and there will most likely continue to be. And we don't know what's happening. There's lots of stories that say that what's being shown to us is not true, or it is, or it isn't. Regardless of any of that, there's a lot of pain right now, and people are losing family members and their lives. And I just very strongly feel it's important that we if we're going to come into unity, even labels and identities like light workers, I don't know. I really, this is, please, I hope, respect, truly. But I really do, I appreciate you, Chidananda, or I hope I said that right, Chidananda, yes. Like, this is a really deep time for going inward for many of us. And I hope that everyone feels that call to go deep inward. I've learned a lot of tools. I've learned a lot of practices. I practice healing arts. I know a lot about taking care of my body. And there's still a lot for me to explore and discover and to release. And there's a lot I'm seeing in myself and in all of my networks, a lot of ego coming up around knowing what the best course of action is, or knowing some secret plan, or having some kind of medicine that other people might not have. And we all have pieces, and we need to unify and humble ourselves. And it might look a lot different than the way we've been gathering in festivals and separating ourselves. It's going to include the working class, our neighbors, people who are not light workers, but we're all angels on this earth. Like, there are so many beautiful people who don't even know what that phrase is, who are coming into really incredible growth and really incredible awakening. And even if they're not, they're just good people. Thank you. I've taken up a lot of space. My heart is beating very fast. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for sharing your heart. Yeah, I think you've touched on, it's a human thing, and being human here together in this.
If I may, Katie, or whoever, or just everybody, you guys hear me? Okay, just checking. Okay, good. So you, Katie, you kind of bringing Chidananda's, and forgive me, the other fellow with the dreadlocks, but
Yeah.
okay, bringing their commentary and their perspective together really brought something to my mind where I think it's been said before. I think it's by Carl Jung, maybe, but and forgive me, this is paraphrasing. I'm terrible with quotes, but you 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 can't reach heaven unless the roots reach down to hell, something along those lines. And it occurred to me that you know, it seems, and this kind of refers back to the last conversation about balance. It seems to me that the shadow work and the light work are simultaneous. There's no doing one without the other, because as you're doing the shadow work, if we continue with the metaphor of the tree, as your roots are continuing to reach down into the soil, into your soul, into the depths that you haven't paid attention to per se, it's transforming, as roots do. It transforms what's in the disregarded parts of your soul that you're looking into, transforming what's there into what the leaves on the branches need. And it's a simultaneous process as we're going through this in the world. While we're extracting the value out of disaster and transforming it into something that collects the light per se. And I just think that's very fitting for the time. And I think it kind of eases the tension between the idea that we have to do light or dark work, light or shadow work. It's certainly to me, I'm sorry, to me it's a simultaneous transformation. So
All about balance.
Yeah, yeah, I think you've touched on some really beautiful things, and appreciate you expressing some of that. I have some concerns that come up sometimes because I know how easily we can hop into the mental sphere. Like I feel like you gave a beautiful explanation of that, a beautiful philosophy that unwrapped that, and I still have concerns about how when we do that, it can still not really get to the heart of what's being expressed.
Sure.
And I'm really appreciating Katie you for bringing that from such a depth in your heart and bringing that feeling so tangibly forward, and appreciating how it's creating, I feel, a deeper sense in this conversation and in this call, and bringing a lot more present for all of us, and calling forth some of these things that in a lot of our communities we're not often aware of, and we often sort of brush under. And so yeah, I just want to again really appreciate you for presencing that, and appreciate those who are here and really feeling that. Yeah.
I'd like to add,
Yeah.
to go back, I wanted to clarify, and I think I know what you meant, Terry, by saying like, just by saying it's a good time for light workers. I think what you mean is at this time right now, we've all been wanting so much change and working on our craft and doing so many things, and now we are in this space right now, and it's as if it's all lined up to like help our evolution. And so I feel the connection, and I feel when we say a good time, not as in beneficial for one and not for the other, we're here to help everyone. So to give us this motivation and this courage and all this energy to then be able to channel it and focus in the direction that we want to with just full force, full speed. I really feel like everything is always meant to be. And so, and collectively, when we come together, even not even coming together, but the thought forms and everything, we're building that momentum. And there's so many more of us, I feel now we're just growing and expanding and connecting. And so just want to continue like harnessing that positivity, and definitely I see the connection with, because as you're going through the shadow, you want to, well, now what do I want to bring in? So I definitely see that connection, what you mentioned, Ethan, as well. And everyone's at their own pace, you know, everyone's going through their own, you know, and so we're all individually just doing the best we can. And so we can all just hold space for each other, and together is better.
Yeah.
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 I'd like to, yeah, just to piggyback on that and say, yes, this is obviously a tremendous opportunity, and it is also obviously very tragic to some people, and there they are. There's no question about that. The one thing that that just popped into my mind is logic and linearity are, I mean, it's, you know, gone are the days where, you know, there was a straight line, you had this intention, and that's what I want to manifest, and I'm gonna make a beeline for it, and I'm gonna go get it. It's like, I mean, things are changing so fast now, and there's so much more information and so much input. I mean, here we are, that we have to be nimble. We have to be more agile to learn to surf this rapidly changing landscape. And man, the way to do that, I mean, it's present moment awareness. You have to be in the moment. You have to be fully in the moment to be able to navigate this landscape. Being fully in the moment is I mean, to its at its utmost manifestation is spiritual surrender. That's spiritual. Maybe that's not, but it's we really have to surrender and open up to something larger than yourself, within yourself and within everyone else. And that's why that work is so important, because that is what allows us to make room to be able to receive the inputs, the information, to be able to react quickly, to change things, to move in a harmonious, flowing manner, because that's where we are now. It's chaos. It's absolute chaos, and there is a way through it, and it's surrendering, being in the moment.
I hear that, Chidananda. You know, and I think part of surrender is, you know, to bring it back to what Katie was saying, her input is so valuable because it's so sobering. And part of surrender is being sober minded enough to realize there's power above you and around you. And yeah, I just think that that's such a good point. And Katie's input is, you know, if you think about it, I've never really called myself a light worker per se, but I do know that my part of my purpose is to shed light and to reveal and to pursue healing, however, whatever modality that may be. But what brought me to that was being aware of the desperation in the world and aware of the darkness in the world. And if we forget, or not forget, but if we look at, if we I sorry, I feel as though if I were to look at the world and worship the opportunity over the need, I would become, I wouldn't, I feel like I would fall away from that calling.
Mm.
So
Powerful.
Could you explain? Could you talk a little bit more about that?
oh, I'll try. Yeah, absolutely. So you know, I guess to try to take it a little, I'm trying to think of like a example, but I guess a metaphor would be more. So if I were like a fruit farmer, if I were growing some trees, and this might get confusing, if I had an orchard, and I wanted to sell my apples to someone, to anybody, you know, I would want high quality apples, because I would value what I was growing enough to make sure that it was of proper quality for the people who wanted to buy it. Now, if I were an apple grower and I wanted to sell as many apples as possible, and I feel like I would cut corners. I feel like I would, you know, quantity over quality sort of thing. And then uh, that would corrupt the crop, and it would take my focus off of growing a fine apple, and it would put my focus on making sure people thought my apples were the best, instead of having a realistic understanding of like the growing process. I'd be a marketer instead of an apple grower. And I feel like if I use that metaphor correctly, I feel like um, if we as people who have healing to offer the world, if we were looking at the opportunity and seeing it above our purpose, then we'd become marketers and less intentional, purpose-driven people.
Been here, Tina.
So.
To put it simply, I'm just kind of bringing this back to what we're doing currently. I mean, we're building something right now that we believe is going to be good for the world, right? And one of the kind of the foundational what do I call it, Caitlin AG? Basically, the foundation of the company is like what we have to offer. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought maybe you were looking for the word values.
Values, yeah. I mean, like, there's an opportunity there for sure, but our main focus is how can we make this so amazing that the world heals from it? That's our main focus. If we make money, great. But if we don't, if we save 5 lives, I think we'll be ecstatic.
That reminds me of like a mission statement, like
Mhm.
your priorities, your mission statement.
Yeah. Mira could definitely chime in here. She's really good at that. And Caitlin's a great wordsmith too. I'm just not. But I understand, Ethan, where you're going, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, just I guess keeping intentions pure and so on and so forth.
Ethan, I'm wondering if, along with keeping intentions pure, if the part of your metaphor about the quantity also applies here to you. Like, do you feel a calling more so towards like being your authentic self in completing your purpose and in your own container, in your own way, in your own community, in your own family, more so than showing up for the world? So wondering if like quantity metaphor in your story also applies to what you're feeling right now.
Let me. I may be misunderstanding, but I'll just speak from my current place. I'm in a totally individual developing stage. Like what I want for myself is to be the best I can be so that I can give to others. And um, you know, that's basically where I'm at right now. So if that answers your question. So yeah, I'm definitely not. I'm trying my best to have a sober mind, sober heart, and therefore sober actions, so that I don't get in the way. I don't start worshiping things that get in the way of my purpose. So I mean, my focus is on my literal immediate surroundings within like the 5,000 feet that I have around me right now. Me, my wife, my stepkids, and going to work. And I've fallen into the trap of, unfortunately, looking so far ahead that I either get depressed or overzealous. So I'm very grounded at the moment. So if that answers your question.
It not only answers my question, it also adds a lot of value for me personally in what you were saying, and I really appreciate it.
Great, awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome, appreciate that. I wanna bring some of this back to a lot of what Katie was saying, what we were getting, because there was like some of the stuff, some of it was about the feel good and how saying it all is good can potentially create division. Some of it was also around like the identity light worker and how these identities, light worker, shadow worker, can also create division, like as if there's some difference. And what I felt in that is like how these identities can create this division, and I think we see that a lot in the world right now. People have been identifying as this, as that, and feeling good within their bubble. Like people feel good within the bubble of light worker. People feel good within the bubble of star being. People maybe feel good within the bubble of like rich white person, and like feel good within all their different identity bubbles. But I think what this is showing us more than ever is that this is a human thing. Like that this is all of us experiencing this as humans. Like Gambia, India, everywhere we go, we're seeing the same people experiencing much of the same stuff, which is a really deep experience right now. There's a lot of pain, there's a lot of suffering involved, and yes, there's a lot of growth. There's beauty to it. There's beauty to the unfolding and we're getting to witness a lot, but there's a lot that's here. And so I think more than ever, now's the time for us to shed our identities, to let go of being so attached to who we think we are, and really learning and understanding what it is to fully be here together.
I've got another thing to add on to there. From what I heard in the shares that brought up that reaction was statements saying that we need to do this, or this is a time for us to do this. And I see we and us statements as another form of a you statement. And rather than speaking from the embodied experience, I found myself doing shadow work lately, or I found myself focusing on light work and things that I can create. That's a really subtle shift that completely changes the way that your message comes across. And I see that actually like fractaling out really big right now in just like incoherence that I see in the collective field is so many people are trying to stand up and speak from a state of a collective and get people on their side. Like, listen, we need to do this. Come listen to me. Like, this is what's happening. Why can't we just do this? And rather than I'm doing this, this is what I see, this is what I feel. And if every person were to come to the conversation and speak their truth and be heard, then an interesting conversation gets started. And that's when I see change happening. And that's when really what every single individual is here to share gets seen. And that's when like the magic starts to happen in my experience. Yeah, just a little semantic share that I noticed, and I was waiting for an opportunity to jump back in and share that. So thank you, AG.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's we've gotten to witness it a lot in these conversations, how quickly we can fall into like this, like wanting to preach a belief because it like validates ours. And like Ethan, I've been so appreciating you because of the beautiful self-awareness you've been embodying and like noticing and catching yourself doing that and continuing to move with that self-awareness. So it's been really cool. And so yeah, I see what you're speaking to there. Really calling attention to that, of how much we can tend to do that, and how valuable it is when we can be in our own individual experience, when I can share what's real for me and allow it to be a reflection for others, so others can see in me whatever it is they need to see in me.
Yay. I'd love to, this is so beautiful. I'd love to share just like something I'm seeing right now as when you're talking is like it's like remembering that we are the earth. And so like if we're like this old growth forest or this big garden, you know, like there's a lot of, you know, you can name a flower and you can like put it in a greenhouse and it'll be different. But when we really come into our just experience of like when I come into my experience of just being in this body right now and like without all the, you know, identity attachments or like thoughts about what that means or what it meant in the past or what other people might think of, and just be really like sinking into that essence. I feel like it is. And then we can start to collaborate, I guess is a word I like even more than organize. Like in symbiosis, we're just like where there are like recognizing that every individual, you know, body or plant or like it doesn't, there's nowhere to really that it really ends, but recognizing that it's so complete and like sovereign and beautiful and necessary in its own way. And then from there like speaking our, or you know, however, expressing and living in our own, in ways that we choose, living in ways we choose, dying how we choose to, you know, birthing how we choose to. And and then asking each other, like, how can we help and support each other in doing it in that way we choose, and like when we're really choosing from a place of like embodying our, you know, bringing in our soul or whatever essence, and just like letting that um like why, like whatever force brought us all the way to this moment, like letting that um you know, show us the way we want to experience this really precious planet and everyone here. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I feel like I'm just seeing community as like this huge forest, right? It's not like in my understanding now, it's not like gonna work if you know, trying to like put up a fence and be like, okay, this is ours and us versus them, right? Like that has been I think we're all bored of that dream. Like I'm bored of that dream where it's like um let's go off grid and get away from how messed up people, whatever. So, like, recognizing that we're all in this web together and that every single person, every single being is a reflection of whatever is like perfect for all of us in that moment, and really honoring that everyone's going to be bringing their specific, you know, vibe, and that is like how do we just appreciate that harmony instead of like um hearing the as if it's just yeah, I'm not even going to go there, but how do we allow that harmony and coherence in that song where we're all playing a different instrument, and yeah, collaborate, like bring together um our heart's desires, like let that grow and expand with each other and with the planet. Like also I've been learning so much from the animals and the trees around, like for real. Like I feel like they've been, especially the animals, you know, just looking in their eyes, they've been telling me about uh you know, it's really practical things about this coming, about like when to go, when to chill, and to just like tune in and drop in with that landscape, and um, start to remember that like I feel I feel really to know like belong in this human realm sometimes, but to just feel the belonging, the like it's not, it's beyond belonging. It's like, of course you are loved and needed and part of all this. When we just like relax into, you know, the other beings here, there are a lot of other beings here that can guide us, and that I feel like our bodhisattvas here to um, remind us how to, yeah, like be present with it all, and keep our hearts soft and open and tender, because that's for me. Like I've also been, oh, I don't want to go on too much, but there's really beautiful teachings from Trungpa, Chogyam Trungpa, about, you know, he talks about fearlessness as like not less fear. It's like going beyond all of these, going beyond being thrown by the waves of emotion, and really like coming into this soft, like fully broken, open heart that just is willing to face reality and willing to be moved by it. And when we let ourselves be moved by it, we find ourselves inspired and kind of easier to do the things that we're called to do, I feel. So thanks for letting me express that kind of half-baked.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was going somewhere for a little bit. It went a little somewhere, but it was for a little bit. It was really going somewhere. I appreciated that it was really going somewhere for a bit.
I would. I would like to just to kind of dovetail it out a little bit. Yes, we need to be shown. I believe we need to be shown. We need guidance here because the paradigm that we have been laboring under, it's getting white. And I mean that's no small matter. It's a whole belief system. So within that paradigm, we have had ideas about how to escape or how to make better the shitty parts of the paradigm, which is fine. You have the shitty parts and you want to, how do we deal with it? But now that the paradigm is getting blown, our previous ideas about how to deal with the shitty parts, some may still apply, but some may no longer apply because we have to learn. So it's totally uncharted territory because we're now in a new paradigm, and a new paradigm needs guidance. We need guidance, and we need to open ourselves to that guidance. So I'm saying.
Thank you, brother. I just want to just call attention to there's a lot of beliefs coming through and a lot of preaching like we need to, and so I just want to kind of call attention to that. But thank you for sharing. Cool.
Chidananda, I do feel the same way, and I'll keep it to the I myself. And it's so easy to say we, because I mean it's these conversations can be so broad sometimes, and guidance, while we can speak individually, it is something that everybody experiences at some point. But individually speaking, myself, guidance is something that I have avoided almost in a practical way. In a metaphysical way, I've always looked for guidance, spiritually speaking, like looking at nature, seeking God. But letting myself be guided by other people is something that I have always struggled with. And I think, it appears to me in the day and age we live in, it's the individual is almost worshipped in a way. And I feel like it has led to that almost shunning of guidance. It's like the individual takes precedent, and because of that, I feel like that's part of the reason why we have people with so much money. For starters, I feel like those individuals, while I'm not gonna talk about their intentions necessarily. I'd rather speak about their belief system or paradigm might involve simply a structure that puts them at the top. And in some ways that's not a bad thing, because it gives them the ability and it gives them sovereignty over their realm, and that's positive in many regards. But it can become negative when the shadow forces that they maybe perhaps have not acknowledged or dealt with have taken the wheel. And yeah, to bring it back to the guidance thing, it's like you spoke about it before, Chidananda, is being able to prostrate yourself to a more powerful thing. And that's to me, I think that's where the beginning of accepting guidance comes from. I think we're definitely in agreement on that. And to attach what Emily was saying to what you were saying, it appears that Emily is certainly taking guidance from nature, and that's so wise at this point. It is such a weird and fantastic thing to look. If I've witnessed sitting in nature, sitting in the woods specifically, I'll see a group of birds flutter or fly off their perches, and a couple seconds later, deer are running through the woods, and it's like the birds have warned me that something was coming. And so it is that the almost animalistic nature, or the animalistic intuition, is so privy to things that we have just maybe not completely, but it seems the animalistic intuition is privy to things that we are trying to relearn, and becoming wise enough to say that that's a power that we do not possess gives us to me, it would, if I were to say that that is a power that I do not possess, then it would give me the humility to pay attention a little bit more to those things, and allow guidance. The other day it's funny, this relates to what Emily was saying. The other day I think I was driving down the road, and I was just kind of thinking scatteredly, and it dawned on me, like, it appears to me that God has created so many things that there is no way that they won't conflict. Oh, sorry. Do you want to cut in? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I encourage you to learn to practice your conciseness. You usually come in with some really, really good, like super clear, potent quotes, but then it goes in a long ramble, and like I feel like totally disconnected from that super powerful thing you said at the beginning. So
gotcha.
Good luck.
I really appreciate that. Your feedback is so good, by the way. I think it's spot on, man.
Yeah.
But I think I'll just leave it there, because it'll take me a second to put the rest of that.
Yeah. It brought me to this question, which is like, why do we as humans feel such a need for guidance? Like, why do we feel like that's something that we need, or are like ever disconnected from? Or I don't know. But I want to table that for the side. I want to give our two newcomers a chance to introduce themselves if they feel so called. Aaron J and Mira Grace, if you want to say hi, I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm Aaron. Yeah, thanks for having me on, everybody. Yeah, I've been listening for a little while now, quite a while, so I'm just new on the video, doing some things. So, thanks.
Mira Grace? If not, that's totally yes. There she is.
Hi, family. My heart is racing. I don't know why I'm so nervous to talk right now. But thank you all for being here. And I've been listening from the beginning and cheating each and every and the diversity that is here and present. It takes all of us and all of our perspectives. It takes all of our perspectives. And thank you all for sharing your perspectives and doing so openly and honestly, and then receiving feedback about it too. It's hard to hear me, but if I speak really close. Thank you all so much for sharing, for being authentic and vulnerable and open, and being open to receiving feedback from your brothers and your sisters, because that's how we grow. And it's beautiful to watch you all do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Cool. So I want to throw a thing in here and see. I've unless anybody has something burning that's like to address any of that. Otherwise, I want to sort of bring us in a slightly new direction, and we can still include where we've come from. Cool. So you unmute yourself, Katie.
I didn't know you could see that. Yeah, well, I was just feeling into that guidance topic, and I don't know if you do want to open that up.
Yeah, let's just for a little bit. Let's just move with it, and then I'll move to this next part.
Yeah, this is a big question that I've been pondering a lot lately, because I've definitely dabbled in lots of different varying degrees of putting guidance outside of myself, like relying on things like outside of myself to tell me what I already know, like what. And I think that a lot of us, me and us, in sort of these spiritual paths and lots of the different, conscious paths that we've been on, sometimes we actually, and I'm saying we intentionally because I've noticed this in myself and others, is that we want, it's like we give our power to this idea, like I'm being called by my guides or this other entity, or I received a message, right? And I've done this a lot and I still do it. And I do feel like I receive messages, but I'm sort of shifting into this new place of recognizing that the message does come for me. This is me and my perspective. I'm claiming that is that it's coming from within, and it's coming in connection with like other energies, I guess, around, and that can include animals and trees and, other unseen spirits perhaps. But I've been in a practice really recently of like going to the earth and being very rooted and being very careful around like this idea of guidance. And so it's like this new way that I'm working with it. And I really do have an experience of seeing reflections in nature, being sort of feeling that I am communicating with birds, that they're communicating with me, that animals, even like, especially pets, like like these animals that we have like almost human kind of connections with, like that's available to us and they're desiring to speak to us. And from there, I feel like it's almost like we're going back to our training wheels. Like from there, that's because as above, so below, what's on earth is how we can learn about the entire cosmos. I feel me again. I feel that coming back like to our training wheels of connecting with how do I even relate to a plant, or how do I even relate to an animal, can help me to, really learn about what is this like unseen realm guidance and what that really is, as separating that from the self and others. So I have felt very called by whatever to share this with people, of coming back to the earth and coming back to nature. And that for me has felt like my way that I want to share with others of moving through this time that we're in. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
I'd like
also
to.
for,
Oh,
Can I say something?
yeah, go for it.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah. Okay.
I'd like to.
Katie, you choose who goes next.
Well, I think Mandy she was jumping, and then Erin, hopefully you can both speak.
Of course. I'd like to agree with you, Katie. Yes, definitely now is like really important to ground, and I feel the guidance, it goes both ways. It can be inner because maybe you are calling or you're asking or having these desires, and then you see it on the outside. Or you can also ask for guidance if you're not sure what's inside. And so I feel like it's this communication that we have that we can connect with and on multiple layers. And so, and as I feel we are evolving, or we're all evolving, and we're getting connected, and our intuition is getting stronger, and we're more open, and so we can now get more creative in how we use this energy, how we connect to ourselves, how do we ground, how do we really know like what's true, what's not true, and so I'm so grateful that we are aware of all this that is around us and inside of us. So, and one more thing you want to add? One thing I wanted to say is the last conversation, I think it was, or a couple maybe, talking about fear, and the opposite of fear is like love. And so I feel like we should just, I feel like for me, it's beneficial to just love through the fear, love it, love your fears, love, and that loving energy is just going to vibrate us and bring us up, where we need to go, where I want to go.
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering if you're able to hear more with all the cars off the roads and all of that. I mean, this is a changing time. I mean, there's all of a sudden I'm able to like smell the flowers like a whole lot better. The trees, I'm able to like smell them a whole lot better without all these cars, with all these people running around. I'm able to like be out during the day walking in the middle of the streets. And I was wondering if that's maybe affecting that relationship.
I've definitely noticed increase. I was just talking about it today, like an increase in my senses and just like you know, things I'm connecting to. Yeah, it's beautiful.
I'll jump in there too, guys. I kind of wanted to clarify a little bit earlier about I actually believe fully in balance, right? Like electrically, you have to have this.
I can't hear you, brother.
Sorry. What do we do?
Oh, maybe just a little louder.
All right, sorry about that. So earlier I spoke of focusing about the light, right? And the point of that is like where your focus goes, energy flows. But I do believe that we need to be fully grounded, right? Because electronically, or in electronics, your ground has to be the same size, if not bigger, than your power cable to not cause a problem, right? To not cause it to burn out. So I believe fully in balancing between what would be considered light and dark, negative and positive energies. But I also understand focus as far as what you're putting your attention on. Like there was this story that was about this tour guide for whitewater rafting, and he went on there, and they were all scared because it was really choppy that day, and it had been raining for like 4 days prior, and everybody was scared. And the tour guide's like, nobody worry about it. You see this finger right here? This is the focus finger. He's like, wherever this finger goes, wherever I'm pointing with this finger, just focus all of your attention on it and go that way. He's like, because I've learned that throughout the time, when I would point over here and say, hey, see the tree over here, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree. Oh, watch these rocks over here, don't hit the rocks, right? Everybody would look at the rocks and focus on the rocks, and they would head right towards the rocks. So my point was not to be in la la land and pretend that nothing existed. Plus, I've done a ton of shadow work on myself. I have been down to hell, like very bad, and I'm on my way up. And I'm my point is to try to take everybody with me, right? This entire earth, everything. So I come very humbly. I know that the way I speak sometimes comes off differently than that, but I have all of the best intentions for everyone. And I come from love. That's my main intention, is just like to help everyone to ascend and not just to take myself, because I also feel like once you go through the shadow work and you start to get on the other side, then you start to figure out how to get to the next level. But then when you get so far, you can turn around and you can help others, right? Because I do understand having to focus on yourself for a while and having to go deep and having to do the shadow work. And I have been in that point for a long time, like really badly for a long time. I almost didn't make it out. But now, like I said, I'm finally feeling I'm on the other side. And my point was is this is a good thing, was not that necessarily it's a good thing for me to benefit from in any type of way. Like, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
I was gonna let you finish your statement if you want to. I was just saying that I had a thing to come in. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing. I want to continue to call attention to the I statements, the me, the owning our experience. We can really fall into this tendency to use you and yourself a lot, and sort of disconnect from our experience. But we're all learning and growing here, so I love all of us where we're at. I also want to call attention to, I think you brought a really beautiful point, which is like focus, which is a lot of the world is focused on the what's fucked up, and so I can see the opposite, trying to balance that by focusing on the light. But what I would suggest is that that's still limited perspective and still keeps us in a divided, and that focusing on anything isn't what's going to get us to where we need to go. That really just like being present with whatever's here, because presence includes all of it, whereas focus is going to like divide and like keep us disconnected from one part. So yeah, like seeing what focus is and what role focus plays, but also seeing the limitations that focus can have, and where just like really being fully present with all of it can enable us to have the balanced view and still bring that energy that we might feel with that focusing.
Yeah, those are like.
May I bring us?
Oh,
or
I think
may I bring us
Caitlin.
back to the question about the word guidance real quick?
Okay.
I'm
yeah.
super cold.
And then Caitlin, we can share right after, unless you're just bringing Caitlin. Yeah.
There's someone talk. I get.
Well, Caitlin had raised her hand, so if yours feels super
Oh.
pertinent, Caitlin,
Sorry.
unless you want to go after. Yeah.
I'm open. I have a little metaphor to share, but I can go either
way. Okay, super quick. It's I probably spoke the word guidance and called, and I feel like a better word that came to me is communication. And there's this inner communion that is really the whatever guidance, the mover, whatever. And you're just like, we're all just going with it, right? But I feel like it's just straight communication. And the moment I was thinking of was actually when I was in the middle of a forest, like a huge forest fire, and was in a beautiful Cobb temple with a crystal singing bowl with another sister, also named Emily, and it was just like this new moon eclipse, and there's this huge forest fire around us, and I went outside, and my friends and my stuff was already gone, and like my body just starts running because that's my body's guidance, like, okay, just like slow, I don't know, I didn't think I was gonna tell this story, but basically slow trot out of there, and then eyes lock with this deer, and there was just some sort of communication, and it's like I can't translate it into all the words that I would normally think of as communication, so I'm like, is it guidance? But it's just like straight communication, and then a certain way that other humans communicate to me through their words sometimes that feels very much like guidance, because it like resonates, like plucks a chord of like something that I already was being told, or I was bringing myself to do. And so, yeah, sweet how we can communicate and remind each other. And thank you for communicating with me.
Thank you. I want Caitlin to share, and then I'm gonna sort of take us in a new direction.
Oh, I would love to say something after Caitlin.
Okay.
I feel
as long as
something.
it's quick. Yeah, go for it, Caitlin.
I would love to also. Thank you.
Okay, we'll do a few more shares.
I just wanted to share a metaphor that's really powerful for me personally in understanding this polarity that we're touching on of the light and the dark, and also the polarity of like the vision and the actual. And for me personally, I typically see vision as I'm out, I'm a sailor, what's my North Star? And the North Star is the vision. And if I'm in my boat and all I do is I stare at the vision and I go, oh, what a beautiful vision, I don't go anywhere. It's beautiful, but we don't go anywhere. And then a big other way of handling being out in the boat is just going, oh my goodness, look at those waves. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do with the ropes? Oh my gosh, like we have to keep the boat afloat. And you may get somewhere, I might get somewhere, but I may not get where I was intending to go. So for me, I find it to be my practice of reminding myself, okay, Where's my North Star? How's my boat? How are the waves? Where's my North Star? How's my boat? And I find that really helpful in this circumstance too. And what's going on with the coronavirus is, you know, I also see the possibilities and the potentiality, and that's the North Star. And I see the boat as how my own life and how my own self is operating. And I see the waves as the external world and what's possible in all of that. And I think that paying that for me, that's where that balance comes from. Yeah, so that's the metaphor I wanted to offer. And then just from a personal, very personal space, in this particular instance, I feel like in this metaphor, I am in the bottom of the boat and I have no idea what's going on. And I'm just hanging out with my baby. So I'm looking during this call to hopefully find ways to find the light, check in on the boat, and also check in on how I can be of any kind of service here from the belly of the boat.
Are there any leaks in the hull that you can see?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
doing a great job.
Thank
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, it's especially, yeah. That's great, Michael, where it's like if you don't see the leaks, oh, you're doomed. You got to really look at the leaks, that's for sure. That's so good. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, listening to everybody's input on this, I've been trying to like connect all the dots, and it's like from it appears to me that there's like, you know, uh AG, you mentioned the presence is important, it sounded like you, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it appeared to me that you said presence takes precedent over focus. And um, to me, I think those two don't have to fight at all. I feel like um, if you, and I'm so sorry, but I forget the fellow's name with the dreadlocks. And what is it?
Terry.
Terry. Sorry. I'm so sorry, Terry. The name's not on there, so I'm like lost. But Terry, going back to what, and forgive me because this was several minutes ago, but Terry, you're talking about how focus is focus is key to looking in the right direction and moving towards that goal. And presence and focus, if we don't have presence, then we're going to go alone. And if we don't have focus, we won't be able to take anybody else with us. I think that's how it appears to me. Like when we have presence, like AG was saying, we're able to be inclusive and bring people in. And if we have focus, we have a directive and we have a path to follow. So combining those two to me is ideal, where you have presence enough to be inclusive and to hear the guidance of each person and to see them as a teacher and imagine that they know something that you don't. And then the focus allows you to almost compile the guidance from the people you're holding presence for in such a way that gives a clear directive. And lately I've been the guidance I have been going to has been the Bible, and it's such an old books, really. I mean, it's a library of books, and it appears to me that, and there's a verse in the New Testament, I think it's in John, I don't know, but Christ is talking about how his disciples are called to be connected to him like branches on a vine, and I feel like that is very much the focus aspect, and where when we put our attention on the divinity and the um, oh, how would you say it? When we put our focus on the truth, then we're more capable of holding presence for others, because it gives us a solid foundation to where we don't fear anybody else. We don't succumb to judgment because someone's different. Instead, we're confident and reassured in our connection to the truth so much that we can endure whatever is surrounding us. And there was something else. Yeah, I think I'm just trying to combine the idea of presence, focus, and guidance, because those three are inseparable.
Yeah, let me shift my words. Rather than presence, let me say attentiveness. Like really
Okay.
being attentive to what's here, not like just placing my attention on this or on that, but being attentive to what is here. And when I'm attentive, then I'm in a space of inclusion. So I'm including everything that's happening. But if I'm focusing, then I'm excluding, because to focus on one thing, I have to exclude everything else. And like, yeah, so do you see kind of the difference I'm making there? Like focus on fear, focus on love is creating, not that those are polar opposites, like that was kind of a thing we discussed. And it's like, I do not think fear and love are polar opposites in any way whatsoever. But like focusing on one thing is going to exclude the others. And so being attentive to what's here, we can be in a space of inclusion, and that allows us to sort of see all the different perspectives.
You know, I'd like to work through that a little bit, because I don't know if I totally agree. Because it depends. Like with your perspective on, if you don't feel like love and fear are polar opposites, then I feel like being attentive to love almost requires being attentive to fear at the same time.
100%.
So when I think if we're in a dualistic mindset, focus can be exclusive. But if we have the understanding, if we are rooted in that truth that things are seamless and connected and duality is an illusion, then when we are focused, we can appreciate the uniformity despite our pointed direction. I think I'm going to work through this after this conversation a bit too, because I just feel like you don't have to sacrifice inclusivity when you focus. I think they can exist at the same time.
I'm saying include focus, like let focus be part of what's included, like but it's not the whole. Like we are not just focusing, but there can be a focus within a space of attentiveness.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. If we were only focused, like I think that's, you get someone like Jeff Bezos, you get, if you were only focused, then it would give you that single thing.
Totally.
It would give,
that's the whole Wall Street issue. Like Wall Street is like that focus on become, grow.
Yeah.
And then we forget the other half, which is to be
and
totally
give.
From our being.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Focus on being at the same time. Like that's the focus on, this inner self. And that's kind of this Western Eastern dichotomy of like the inner outer focus. And I think this also goes to leadership style. In different parts of the world, there's different leadership styles I've noticed in different ways that groups work together and group dynamics. And I think that this is kind of what we're talking about from my standpoint. It's kind of like, oh, are we all going somewhere together? Are we all in one ship, or are we kind of each in our own little ships? I mean, just to go to Caitlin's point there, are we all trying to go somewhere together? I mean, to me, it kind of seems like this whole thing, this virus is happening to the whole world. It's happening to the whole world. So how do we move through it? I mean, that we have to, as a whole world, have to get through. And so one way or another, it's going to happen. It's just how many of us are going to be alive on the other end.
Yeah, Aaron, that's a good point, and that's something I've been really struggling with. Is like, and it's a sobering thought, but there are people who don't have there are people who don't have strong enough boats to make it through this, and there are people who have boats so big that they run over other boats. And I feel like the Western world is, I mean, well, even not even to talk about the Western world, but just the pandemic has caused us all to retreat into our single boats, and we're really, I mean, hopefully we are. I am trying to repair my boat, so when another wave comes, I'm not overwhelmed. Yeah.
Right. I think the one thing is right now is that we rely on the whole group to focus together in some way, for our isolation to not spread the viruses. Like, how do we do that yet come together? I think it's just kind of like this dichotomy, but it's not solely exclusive. How do we have our freedoms, yet how do we each have our own space so we don't kill each other?
Yeah, I'm
And
in my
I'm gonna cut you off, Ethan.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Can I just say it'll be so quick. Just one.
Okay, very quick.
It'll be so quick. My solution, in my opinion, the thing that kind of wraps that idea up, Aaron, and makes it coherent, is that the sovereignty of the individual kind of corrects that. Once the individual becomes strong enough to hold themselves up, they can then link arms with others. If that's my take on it. I'd love to go more into it, but AG won't let me.
Part of that was there's a tendency to respond really quickly, and sometimes it doesn't allow for the question. Like, there's so much richness in the question, and allowing that question to just be there in the space before we rush to answer a question. And so it's just sort of encouraging that space and allowing for the question. And I want to give Mira Grace a chance to speak because she expressed interest in that a while back.
Hi, family. Can you hear me all right this time? Cool. There were a lot of things I wanted to say, and my phone just told me it's the hour of Saturn, FYI. And they came and left, and new ones came in. And as I watched this happening, I asked myself, why do I want to share that thing? What is the thing that I really want to share? What is my intention in sharing that thing? And really going into a self-reflective process about it. And asking myself, do I just want to share this because I think it's cool, or that I found the truth and I want other people to know my truth? And then I realized that underneath that is really this deep desire that we all find truth. And I want that for myself. And so I want that for everyone who wants it for themselves as well. And I think that's where that rush comes from, and that beating in my heart that says, is Emily still here? Oh, yeah. What would you like to explain? Shall I keep going? Or? After me? Okay, yeah. That beating in my heart, it's a sign of how much I care. And when we rush in to answer that question, I invite us to look underneath that and tune into that deep desire to share what you found to be true for yourself, and also to know what the truth is and bounce those ideas off each other. It's just really loving this process and loving as we learn how to do it in more harmonious ways, how beautiful that is. So thank you. And I wanted to share a little metaphor that Caitlin inspired, that It's really quick. It's from The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, and he reflects that the rudder and the sails are the reason and the passion of our seafaring soul. And so the rudder directs us, and our reason kind of, moves us, and the passion, or the reason directs. The passion is really the energy of the sails, the wind in the sails. And if we didn't have that passion, that rush to share our truths with people, or what we believe our truth is, then we would just kind of be sitting still at sea, like looking at that North Star and saying, oh, I want to go there, but we're not really moving. And if we were just passionate all the time, we might just trample over what everybody else has to say and never be in that receiving state that allows us to, yeah. So it's a balance between those two that I have personally found is really helpful. And I hope this blesses your path. And I hope that you all have wonderful evenings. And thank you, Emily, for all your shares. Thank you so
Wow, thank you, thank you, thank you, sister. Oh my gosh, so beautiful, so amazing. I was just, Jimmy just informed me that he didn't understand my forest metaphor, and it was basically that if everything in the forest is its own thing, its own the berry or the leaf or the it has its own medicine, its own way of being prepared, its own needs. It has different needs, and and thereby can give its specific medicine. And so it's really sweet. We can just be curious about what is each person's specific and each being's specific needs or requests or like choices or desires, or how do we get to weave and support each other with that. And so what I was trying to say is I hope it's a little more yeah, understandable. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams.
Merrily, merrily down the dream.
Cool.
Up with the dream.
So we've been here for 2 hours, but for anybody who wants to keep going, I still got in me. Anybody, feel free to leave whenever you need to. I want to create a space that allows for potential new directions in conversation. We've been flowing like kind of one stream of conversation, so I want to create a new one. So I want to read a few of what people said they'd like to talk about, and then see if anybody has anything that resonates with them from that, or if anybody has any other places they feel really passionate. And we can do a little like process of agreement and finger wave and to see what we're all feeling. So what people said is, how can we effectively communicate and come together most deeply in these times? And what questions are we asking ourselves to support our highest growth? Implications of the current situation. Call to action, applying purpose, plan, prepare, action. How are we transforming? How can we support each other? How can we organize? Action steps. What works in the old system? How can we learn our lessons as soon as possible? What they are, how to communicate with others, obstacles, related collective fears and doubts. And I'm looking to talk about loving kindness and how each one of us feels about it and how we are cultivating it. So there's a few thoughts. I also proposed a thought earlier of like pulling with the metaphor of like the virus and looking at the contagion, the spread of different ideas as well, and how that plays in. And so I'd love to hear from anybody in here if there's anything they feel really called to talk about from that list or just on their heart. And you can just share in just like 30 seconds. And then we can, if people agree, just kind of like give a little like finger wave and we'll let a few shares go and then we'll see where we want to go.
I'd like to express gratitude for reading that list of questions. I know I came in with a question that I was open to talking about, and have been feeling some frustration with how our conversation is kind of like cycled around the same topic for so long, for like 2 hours now. And I feel a lot of gratitude in this moment that you shared that question, because a lot of people had the question of how to communicate. I feel like that's been the meta conversation, has been communication itself. So I actually feel like much more complete and present with the entire container, knowing that we've been on topic and I just didn't know it. So thank you.
I just found that entertaining, or I don't know, I just like appreciate you, Michael, and found myself laughing, so I took myself off mute to be heard in my laughter. I really like these questions. They are stumping me right now. Like, how do we communicate? How? I feel like I know how to do it, and I also feel like I don't. And I think we spoke about this what I'm about to say. I think I said this maybe on another call of like that a lot of this time is like a medicine of this time is oh man, I mean we've said it enough, but just that like going inward and like maybe not really creating a lot, like not really like trying to organize or trying to come up with the answer, but like allowing like so yeah, I don't have an answer on how we can communicate. Nope, I don't have that right now. I feel fine about that.
Well, we're communicating right now, and this is our 5th one, so I really love these. It's pretty awesome. And I had that question too, like how do we come together? How do we support each other? Or more of like a desire or a call, like of wanting to do that. So I'm really feeling that call, like really wanting to help use my skills in organizing, in communication, and bringing all our skills together, and really just in whatever that may be. I feel like maybe we all have different visions, and so I feel it's important to be clear, like what do we want? If this is a new playing field, if this is a new start, what do we want? What do we want to create? Like really getting deep into what is it that we really want to bring into our world, and really getting narrowed down and focused with presence, of course. I feel like we've talked about a lot of important tools that we should keep in our tool belt, and the presence is just the awareness of all of them and when to use, and having the what was that word I said today? It was like discernment. Yeah. So, but anyway, I can help helping organize, or helping what was the other word instead of organize? It was like what was the other word? Structure or create. I don't
You're
know.
talking about
I've
transform.
always said collaborate. I think that's
Yeah, collaborate. How can we collaborate? Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I love that we keep coming back to communication, communication, organization, and collaboration, because it's like what I see with these containers is there's so much to talk about right now. Like with everything that's happening, there's so much to talk about, and so we come together and talk about it. And really, what we end up learning is how we communicate, because there's so much to talk about, how are we communicating effectively and how we communicate is how we come together in all the ways. And so it's like these are explorations in understanding how we can really come together. And a lot of what I've seen in these conversations is this process of minds opening. It's like I see more and more people on these calls like having these like minds just opening more and more and being more open and receptive. Like there's more and more of this opportunity to let go of what we think we know and to really be open so that we can actually come together as a group. And so that's what I see in a really big way is like this communication, communion, all of this is happening when we come together with open minds, which brings me to the question of like, how do we open minds? How do we effectively open minds? How do we open our own mind? And how do we bring about open minds in a group of people so that we can come together, so that we can organize, collaborate, and do all of these things way more effectively than we would if we're all in our closed-minded, it's what I think it is and nothing else space.
Yeah, oh, who was sorry?
Go for it. Yeah.
I'll put it on my headphones so y'all can hear.
Perfect.
Thank you. What's coming up for me is about inclusivity, and feels like to have an open mind is for me to be open to receive whatever somebody else is offering to me, and being able to, from my consciousness, decide and choose if that's for me or if it's not for me, and being okay with it not being for me, or being super grateful if it is for me. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for all the things you all have shared that were for me and weren't for me, because they all taught me something.
Hey, so my point was kind of here now after hearing that how collaboration is really our main goal, but we're not supposed to be, or I'm not supposed to say we or us, when really the point is for us to collaborate and do something together, right?
Totally. And I think that's a really valid point. And I think there were a few things that were misunderstood or maybe misspoken at times around that. And I don't think we're trying to, at least I wasn't trying to do this, although I might have unintentionally done that point, wasn't trying to discourage using we or us. And Katie made a really beautiful example of how to use we and us. It was more to bring awareness to how we can use we or us to preach, to try and speak a belief into the space rather than coming from a space of understanding and open-mindedness and togetherness.
Okay. I've learned a lot recently about clarity, right? So to have clarity, right, is the same thing as having focus. Like without knowing where it is you're trying to go, it's a lot harder to get there.
I don't see how clarity and focus are the same thing.
I guess focus helps to bring about clarity on the particular vision or the particular goal that you have. It helps you to avoid distraction and to stay on that same path.
It helps you to avoid distraction and stay on the same path. Yeah, like I can see it being a useful tool, and I'm not denying it's a useful tool, but focus is one thing and clarity is one thing, and they may be connected, but I don't see them as the same thing.
I like this idea of when we focus on something, it's like we're narrowing our vision into this small little circle. And so we can see everything in that circle with much greater resolution. And that for me is like clarity is the resolution with which I see something. So focus is like a lens that allows me to like look into the atoms, like into the quantum mechanics of whatever I'm focusing on. Yeah, like a zooming.
Mm-hmm. Like a camera focuses.
And when it's in focus, it's clear.
I'd like to, if we could, just go back to the question about how we open our minds and how we can be open to opening our minds. And I'm not sure if you said this, AG, but opening other people's minds, I don't think we can try to do. I don't think that there's that piece does not land well for
Maybe less trying to open another's mind, but more facilitating a mind opening. How can we support the
So
opening of a mind?
I have two things to say. One is I believe it's very important, and I don't, I do this to varying degrees depending on like where I'm at, but to come into anything with like great humbleness and humility, like in the sense of being honest to yourself and like what you are. I think that was the definition of humility from the Gene Keys that really like changed my mind. It was like humility is about the truth of what we are. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So coming to a situation, an interaction with another, with great humbleness and like understanding that there is a lot that we don't know and a lot that we do know. And I think as we like know more and more things, so a lot of people talk about like the more I know, the more wisdom I gain, the less I realize I know. And there's that piece. And then there's also this piece of the more I gain and know and learn, like we might be filling it up and not having space for new. So just always coming back to like coming to something as like a new. So having that awareness is something that's really important to me that I'm always working on. Um, sometimes I do it well and sometimes I do not. And then the other piece I wanted to say with opening other people's minds, which is edgy for me to talk about, but I'm going to go there, is that I just want to bring in this perspective. I heard this on a podcast once about people who were trying to go door to door and help people. Like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but they were like trying to change people's minds to like on like a political topic or a political issue. And they said that they had the most success when there's empathy and creating a human connection. So if you're coming at somebody and like trying to change their perspective by being like, no, you have to see it this way and it's actually like this and do it like this, and like, oh my gosh, you must be so stupid because like you don't see it this, like you're never going to get there. You're just going to create defensiveness. But if you really want to have an impact, the greatest chance, according to this podcast that I listened to, is to come to a person and actually like try to understand and show them that you're seeing them, and then hook in with like something where you like within their humanness, um you can create like a human to human connection, and then like kind of bring it into like, well, wouldn't it, like, what about your this family? I don't know. Anyway, I can't, I don't have an example right now, and it's hard for me to speak in like theory and stuff, but empathy and humility, those are like great tools for communication.
Can I jump in with a little quick thought?
Yeah.
I so vibe with that, and I'm reading this book as you're talking. Actually, it's called Fierce Conversations, and as you're talking, I'm reading this passage, and it goes like this: Once in a precious while, silence is merely abstinence from self-assertion. For many work teams and couples, however, it is easy to fall into a conversational pattern that contains so many words, so much white noise, that leaves all parties deaf to any comments of substance that could have been interjected into the conversation. Our habitual ways of talking with or at each other prevent us from allowing silence to help us get in touch with what we really want to say.
Mm.
It goes on to say this: if we are not alert, we will walk with others right past the issue. We may sense that something is there, but the conversation is moving too fast. Or we become so invested in playing the role of the expert We fill the air with words, missing the real issue. Often my role is to slow down a conversation, and silence is my greatest tool in this. As we talk with people, as we sit with them in silence, what is in the way? Anger, numbness, impatience, manipulation, rigidity, blame, ego, cruelty, ambition, insensitivity, intimidation, pride may fall away. It is in silence that such attributes, emotions, and behaviors reveal themselves as unnecessary. And just to kind of go with that point with empathy, I do need to slow down and listen, because in a conversation, I want to jump in and have a quick laugh or a quick witty comment. And I'm learning that if I'm speaking with someone, I speak with them and I listen maybe a little bit deeper and then allow that moment to drift and just to flow. And I think in that silence, we catch something deep that we don't have to interrupt with like a joke or like something like that. So my question is, how can we have these tools for deeper conversations when what are we really trying to say, and how do we catch the waves of each other?
I'm actually taking this class right now. It's a knowledge broker blueprint, but it said something in there that was really on point to what's. Can everybody hear me? Do I need to get closer? Okay.
Yeah.
So right on point with this was, when you enter a conversation that your client is having in their head, you understand and share from your heart, living their dreams, nightmares, and goals. People buy from and say yes to and learn from you when they feel understood, not when they understand you. So it kind of went right along with the empathy and how you were speaking, that people listen much more intently to you when they feel understood, rather than when you try to get your point across to be for you to be understood, for you to understand me.
And I'd like to bring in Gandhi. He says, be the change that you wish to see in the world. And so we want to create this openness. And so really we just have to embody ourselves and our gifts and be the change we want to see. And that itself will help spread the change. It's not, well, we have to, we don't have to try, we just do.
I'm seeing a couple points that I'd like to connect. So the question of how do we have conversation if we can't speak from we, and Katie beautifully addressed that. And I love Paul's introduction of like the silence aspect. And the word that got me super excited was facilitation that AG brought in. So pulling all those together it's not so much the belief speaking from we is the issue, but when it comes down to how do you speak for the collective, how do you speak for we, I see that as an invitation, and that's where you speak from your own self. So with how I am and how I feel, how about we do this? And I had a very recent experience in communication where I feel like I crossed that boundary and I haven't even been able to go back and fix that. So like that's very alive in my system right now. And in the silence aspect, and then also tying that into facilitation, how do we facilitate the container? I think I see that as being maybe where we could improve in this container at present. AG, you're doing a beautiful, wonderful job. Thank you so much for facilitation. And I would love to see you do more personally. And what I mean in that is rather than leaving the space open for people to jump in just whenever they want to, having a designated facilitator for a conversation does so much good from what I've seen. And this has been the major harvest I've seen from other issues in difficult conversations or difficult community even. And the facilitator is one who calls on people to speak and has really no like stake in the game. A good metaphor is like the air traffic controller, not the pilot. And so they're just seeing what's happening and where the excitement is and they allow the silence still before they call on somebody. So even if everybody in the room knows who's going to speak next, until the facilitator feels it's like time to jump in, then they call on it. And that, even that little bit of space in between can totally shift a share. And I see it as bringing a lot of coherence, and it does slow down the conversation just to that share that Paul brought in. And it also keeps people in that space of getting to that collective invitation. Like, how do you form to an agreement? How do we come together, rather than we need to do this, we need to do that? It's, how about we try this? And then the facilitator gets to feel that as a question. Do we want to try that? And then if everybody wants to try that, then you go in that direction. So where my excitement jumped in this conversation was when the questions were brought in, that everybody came in with those questions. And we, now looking back, knowing what the questions were, we talked about a lot of them. And as of like a facilitation as like approach would have been, these are the questions, which one do we want to talk about specifically, rather than unknowingly each person getting to interject with their question. So, and this is just coming from a place of like constructive, like, yay, these are things that we can like collectively come to an agreement on and create structure. And once we structure this container, we can structure this container. Yay, I feel complete. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the issues with having a core facilitator who's directing it is it brings in this aspect of control. And when we bring in that aspect of control, this no longer is able to be an appropriate model reflection of what's happening in the world. Because then if this is a model of what's happening in the world, then all of a sudden we need to create all these containers where there's somebody in control who's leading all of it. And so what I like to create is a container where each one of us is empowered as that. And yes, I can do a better job of stepping up and speaking up a little more, but I'm not interested in being the one in control who's navigating and pointing to all the things. If you get what I'm going at with that. Yeah.
There's just I think there's just different. Sorry, Katie, do you want to speak?
Aaron, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I think there's just different ways of facilitating. I really like a lot of like the open space. I don't know if any of you are familiar with open space technology. Pretty cool stuff, and they have a lot of different resources out there on like facilitation. But I don't know, everyone has their own ways about it, and everyone's, you know, learning and how to work together. And I think it's interesting, like, are we called here for a cause, or just kind of like jumping on to see what's going on? Are we called on here to answer some questions or core issue, or is it just kind of like open and see how it flows? I don't know. I mean, there's just different ways to go about it. Do we have one room, or do we have breakout rooms? Are we, you know, I mean, these are just all questions I think that are coming up in this realm. And some people are like, oh, let me take in all this information. I've been there pretty lately, but like other parts of my life, they're like, it's like, oh, collaborate. We need to collaborate. We need to get together. We need to do something. What do we do? I have these skills. How do we get together so fast? And I think that's where this kind of shifts between like, let's just be open and open our minds together and be present together, to like, let's focus and be there together and get there. You know, like, let's sit there and observe the seas, or like, let's go take our ships and go to that island because there we're going to be safe. And I think there's some people in this conversation that are like, we need to figure out where we're going. And there's some people who are like, let's chill and open our minds. And there's other people who are all over the place. I'm kind of, I don't know, figuring it out. So, because this is a whole new world. I don't know, ideas, there's just ideas.
Thank you.
I love
I
it.
really. Oh,
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go, and then I'm
Get it, Katie.
I'm loving how this is kind of a little bit of like a microcosm, like, of this greater thing that we're in right now, because we're talking about, like, do we need one leader? Do we need like are we like sovereign enough to like come together? You know, like there's this concept, right, that like you have to separate from the group to become sovereign, and then you come back into the group, and then it's like this group of all sovereign beings. Well, I don't know if everyone is doing that. Like I can't like count on everyone to do that. So do we need a facilitator or not? I actually really, in my experience, I love having designated, like compassionate and like, you know, gifted leaders who are, you know, like having roles and having, you know, some structure, I think is important. You know, we could get into the whole like masculine, feminine, and how that's a beautiful dance and there's balance and necessary to have the flow and the structure, sure. Um, I just, yeah, it's like I'm not sure yet if we're like ready to like call on like who's the leader or whatever, or if like we are, you know, it's like, where are we in the, like just in the Corona conversations microcosm, where are we, right? And then we can take from that some wisdom of like, well, where are we in the grand, you know, story of wherever humanity's going.
100%.
Yeah.
I think what this presence is a lot for me is like this exploration of what is facilitation. What is it to facilitate? Is facilitation control? I don't think it is. Like it goes back to what we're saying, like how does one facilitate an open mind? Can we really do anything to facilitate someone opening their mind? Or can we just have an open mind? And by having an open mind, naturally facilitate others opening. And so, and the same thing, it's like, how do we facilitate effective conversation other than to effectively communicate and be totally present with the space? And so I think facilitation is a really beautiful exploration in this. And it's important to look at what it is to facilitate that's not one person or two people or whatever coming in and controlling the space.
Yeah, I hear that, AG. You know, from what I'm picking up out of the facilitating topic is, um, you know, I think it takes a lot of, I, I, I think good communication, in my opinion, takes a lot of self-awareness. And we, in terms of if there is a facilitator, we'd want them to be competent at it. I mean, we'd want them to know that they're good at facilitating and that we trust them enough to facilitate. But the conversations also are incredibly relevant, like, or relative rather. Like this conversation, AG opened it up by saying this is a wide, broad subject. We're going to touch on a lot of stuff. It's interpretive. There's metaphors, and so it's been a flowing conversation. Whereas before, it was about specifically balance. And you know, I myself, I need to search myself to know where my competencies are and what uh, what I can do to make sure I'm on track. Like I noticed Paul has a sheet of paper in front of him, and I think that is just fantastic for this sort of thing. So that we all can individually, well, and I myself, I need to use something like that to keep on track. But I think ultimately it comes down to knowing one's personality enough to facilitate themselves in a way, and then being humble enough to look at a facilitator and accept that facilitation.
See a lot of people wanting to share right now. And this is exactly the point that I wanted to address. May I share?
Yeah, you go, and I like where you're going.
Okay. So yeah, lots of people are wanting to have space to speak right now. And I saw the beautiful facilitation point already happen once, and I'd like to presence that. When Katie and Ethan both tried to speak just now, right before AG jumped in, they both spoke, they both stopped, they stepped into silence, and Katie stepped forward and said, I would like to speak. And then Ethan yielded. That was facilitation. That was active facilitation there. And that was taking their own sovereignty in facilitation. And so just having that awareness of, it's not so much I need to say this, but also being aware of other people. So that brings in the boat, the raft, and the focus, like, and also having presence though. So the focus is the person about to speak, but presence is being in the boat and knowing what's going to happen when focus is there. Like, yeah, so there's a lot of things going on. I'm just really excited about seeing communication happen. So whoever wants to speak.
Yeah, Aaron.
I'm gonna dip out. Yep, okay. I'm done. Thank you guys. You guys are wonderful. This has been the best one yet. I'm glad to be a part of this. Looking forward to more.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, brother. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Love you, brother. Thank you.
What I'd like to share actually is as part of this group up in Michigan. It's called Grand Rapids Autonomous Support System. But one of the days we had made this, or they had made and provided how to have a meeting from a communal consensus-driven format. And in the first part of it is to assign roles. After gathering, it's time to decide who's going to fill the roles for that meeting. Note, it's important that roles be rotated regularly to avoid implicit power structures. And then you would do introductions. Once you know who's doing what, it's time to go around and see who's in circle. This is a great time for icebreakers. Then you do centering before hopping into, well, I think I got unfolded differently.
Unfolding. We are all unfolding.
I really like this. That's really cool.
So, oh shoot, this just seems so weird.
Cool.
They made their own little magazine, but somehow they cut the paper and folded it. Now I just messed it all up.
It's one of those foldables.
Yeah. Either way, what's way more exciting to me than sharing how other people have done it is actively exploring how we are going to do it right now and letting it be totally fresh without bringing in a bunch of other beliefs about, and because everyone's got their system, everyone has their way of doing it. And so my invitation for us here is to put all that aside, throw all that out, take a little lighter and just burn it, and then see what we can discover fresh and new in this space.
Okay. It's a lot easier when somebody can actually finish a point, though, like to be discerned.
Aaron, you have something to share?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think there's this thing out there called Kiko Chat, and it's pretty cool. I mean, if there's more people in one of these, you can get, because it allows breakout sessions, so different people can like have topics, and you can have breakout meeting rooms of maybe a few people or whatever, and you can leave whenever you want and go to a different topic, and just like have different people facilitate different subjects for a given amount of time and then come back together and break out into different rooms. So just like if you're going to bring a bunch of people together, I don't know, just as far as I've seen, it's I've played around with it a bit. It's pretty cool if you can get like 30, 40 people. It can hold up to 100 people. So it uses Zoom, and you can have Google Docs. People could be typing notes, and just like seeing what people are what topics people are interested. It could be pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah. I'd love to dive into that more with you afterwards. The breakout room idea is definitely appealing. All the things.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the little sidebar here.
Cool. Oh, awesome. We've been here closing in on 3 hours again. Yeah. Anybody have anything they wanting to share? I'm feeling like we're coming close. Yeah, Caitlin, get it. Caitlin or Mira, whoever's want to go. You two love each other, so just.
No, that's not
Speak, a beautiful goddess. What do you have to share?
Thank you, beautiful goddess. I am feeling really inspired by what Michael is bringing into this conversation, and loving this like question about facilitation and how we might go forward in the future. I love the idea of the breakout rooms and the technology. And I think especially right now, those are really useful. But personally, I am even more excited to see how we can bring all of this offline at some point as well. And so what the thought that I had before you last spoke, Michael, was that the purpose of a facilitator when facilitating opening a mind or facilitating a conversation is to provide that sense of safety. It's not about controlling things. It's about creating space so that everyone is safe to share and not being talked over, and that there is like security, or like an honoring of the space between shares, the space between differing ideas. And I'm still with that, but with the addition of what AG said about wanting to decentralize it, and you're noticing, Michael, what I saw of you noticing the Katie and Ethan interaction, is that it seems like that kind of singular facilitator is really helpful and important as we are learning how to keep each other safe. And what I internalize from that is, in these calls, constantly checking myself and asking myself, am I honoring the safety of the others here? And am I honoring this space? And am I honoring this unfolding? And if every person in the conversation can hold that in their hearts, I think that we can have what AG is kind of seeking, of like this like co-facilitated thing that maybe doesn't exist on a pamphlet yet, on our future pamphlet that we uncover. And that's something that has unfolded my mind, so I'm excited about it. Thank you.
I love that. And the only thing I might say is, what if we shift it from being a super safe container to being a super risky container, where we know when we come in, everything we thought we knew before might have to just die.
Okay, so I knew that's what you were going to say. And there's probably a better word for this safety, but it's this like, so that people feel safe to share because they know that there's going to be acknowledgement before someone comes in and
Totally.
Yeah.
What I would say for that is a sense of belonging. Like, let's create a sense of belonging and a sense of welcoming, where people feel welcomed into the space, feel like they belong in the space, and that they're free to express what they need to express, but that it's a space of honesty. And so if you express something, somebody might challenge that, and it could feel like an attack. An attack doesn't feel safe, but we want to create a space where we're able to authentically and honestly express ourselves, so we can actually grow together in this.
Hey, I have an idea.
Yes.
Could I challenge you in a sense of a space where it feels safe to die? You've you said maybe everything would die, right? When we're sitting, to bring it back to your glorious post, like if we're sitting in an ayahuasca ceremony, there are people there facilitating it and creating a space where there's a container around it. So you're having your personal experience and you might feel like really unsafe and but there's like mechanisms in place to like keep it, in varying degrees and abilities and, levels of safety. But there's like, the idea is that you're doing this in a ceremonial way where you're breaking down certain things in yourself, and there is safety, but you're still, so like, how is that achieved? Right. Whew.
Can I say something real quick?
I was only
Yeah, I'll just be really quick. I think it changes the whole dynamic when it's live on Facebook. It's an interesting, different dynamic. But like being live out there for the world, for the unknown populace, I think is an interesting, different dynamic that we haven't had in the past. Like just being like broadcast all of a sudden. And I'm finding that in my own work. I'm finding that in all kinds of things, just like live being out there. Anyhow, all right, go ahead.
Thank you, Aaron, for presencing that, because I had forgotten that this was being streamed live and being recorded. So thank you for presencing that, because that I do see that how that if that's present in your reality, then obviously it could be present in other realities. And the point that I was going to get to was bringing back the analogy that I proposed when I brought up facilitation. And I hear lots of talk about safety, and then I also see this like resistance to control still in the conversation and wanting emergence. So the analogy that I put out was an air traffic controller. And an air traffic controller has the word controller in their title, but they don't control the planes. Pilots control the planes. So we're all pilots. And an air traffic controller would be somebody who is aware of the field and lets everybody else know when it's safe to start landing. So if there are two planes that want to land at once, the air traffic controller doesn't make the judgment call of your plane is more important than your plane. They just say the runway is now clear. Well, I guess this is my own version of air traffic control, but so it would just be like, oh, this person wants to speak and this person wants to speak. And then in that moment, you take a second to discern. And if someone's really like, I gotta share, and if someone's maybe in a more reactionary state, in that second of there are two people wanting to share right now, then it will auto-regulate. And you get that beautiful emergence. And then you also have that opportunity to have some kind of like space being held and safety being established. And the cool part about the air traffic controller is we can all be pilots and we can all be air traffic controllers, but we have to voice that and set the container where if somebody sees that somebody else wants to talk and someone jumps into a share right away, every single person should jump and be like, but this person wanted to speak too. And then we reel back, and then it auto regulates. So I see the resistance, and I totally honor the resistance to having one person named. I also see and totally honor what Caitlin said about maybe as we are emerging as a container, it's good to have a person who is really holding that space. And then I also want to jump ahead to just be like, let's all do it. We can all do it. I believe we can auto-regulate, we can self-regulate, and we all have that power to be sovereign. Yes. I'm not sure where we are right now.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
would.
open to the container.
I'm very much let's let the natural organic growth, like let's bring through some understandings, like okay, when we speak in terms of I and we, and let's bring that as an understanding, not as a rule. Like let's bring forth like understandings about belief, about empathy, about giving advice, and about all these different things. Let's like bring that forth to offer to the group, and then let's be the example. So rather than saying, hey, if somebody's cutting somebody off, you should protect that person, you should do that, you should do that, it's creating a lot of structure, which may have some use, and I know that people put those structures in place for a good reason, but I think that trying to put too much of that structures, like trying to make everybody air traffic controllers, trying to make everybody pilots, could create structures that actually inhibit the natural flow of what can unfold in the space when we allow for the unfolding.
And I totally see that. And reflecting on my own experience in this conversation, there were moments where I wanted to be like, hey, that you've spoken a couple times, you should take back. But I also didn't feel that I had that right or that ability because it hadn't been spoken on. And I didn't want anybody to feel like I was bullying them or to feel unsafe because of that. And to stop them in their tracks. So this is like getting into how do we set this as a container is setting, like, can we set some kind of ground rule there so it's known, or now that I've spoken on it and it's been brought up and we've discussed it, is it known now for future containers?
Well, I think sort of the ground rules, let's be honest. And so I could be honest and say like, hey, I've been hearing you say a lot of this, and I'm feeling a little frustrated within myself because I don't feel like I'm getting a chance to hear somebody. And then we're not projecting, we're not blaming, we're not shooting, but we're being honest about what our experience is. And then others might share that same experience and feel more free to share their experience.
Well, I have a question in regards to that. So how would that apply when we're like our brother using the account which I'm sorry, the Yogi Mandi, when our brother was sharing about the community, who set the rule in that case that he couldn't share previous structures of community, because I was truly interested in hearing and what I could take from that. So was that something that you set upon yourself, AG, that you said that's a structure for him not to share things that were also
Yeah,
previously inherited, or however you feel that?
yeah, thank you for sharing that. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was that I said that I'm not nearly as interested in that, that I'm much more interested in us seeing what we can naturally unfold. And so
Okay.
maybe I misspoke, but I think I was just expressing honestly about what interests me, because to me it is much more interesting if we're like organically discovering how we can effectively communicate rather than bringing in old structures. Like I think Terry brought in a really beautiful potential structure there, just as Michael did. And they're both beautiful and they have their use, but it's a lot less interesting to me than discovering it organically. Yeah, Terry, what's up?
One thing that was set in the beginning was that this was a space where someone would be allowed to speak uh, with the intention of listening to it and not the intention to reply. But like I said, each time I had spoke, I was cut off.
I'm sorry you feel that way. Yeah, thank you for expressing that.
So my experience with it, with the space so far, has actually been somewhat negative, to where when I did try to bring my opinion or my perspective to the situation, it was more met with a lot of uh, defensiveness, maybe would be the word.
Yeah, I hear your experience. It hasn't been my intention to be defensive or to attack you in any way.
No, I didn't feel attacked. No.
Okay. Yeah, I also haven't felt a need to defend. I apologize if I came across defensive in any way. I apologize wherever that may have came from. But my intention is to be honest and to cultivate clear communication in this space.
Beautiful, thank you.
Okay, yeah. So for me, I would just want it to be clear that that's what something that was okay. What you wanted in that moment was saying, okay, I want to, rather than hear what has already been figured out, I just want to hear what we can do now. So per se, maybe that was your expression, but maybe your brother still would have felt heard and us listening to what he wanted to share, even if it was something that was interested to you. Like for my personal interest was I wanted to hear that too. So it's like, okay, are you then the like what you're saying, you're doing the air traffic at some level, saying, well, let's keep it in this structure, or let's keep it to what is more interesting for me, which is to find out how we can do it now. Because I was more interested personally myself in hearing what he was going to share, for
Totally.
example.
And I empower you to, in situations like that, if I say I'm not interested, for you to speak up and say, hey, I'm actually really interested in hearing that.
Yeah, I wanted
I'm
to.
not trying to be
I
the
held
controller of the
myself back.
space.
I was like, I really want to hear that.
Totally. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for honoring that. I appreciate the communion.
Definitely. Likewise.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how much we're deferring our power to AG because he was the initiator and set the guidelines. And Jose, I appreciate that you spoke to that and that we had this moment to say, no, actually, like, if you are interested in something, if AG says he's not interested and someone else would be like, oh, wait, but excuse me, I would like to hear that. That is absolutely allowed. Like, and that is like a beautiful unfolding in this moment. And then for me to recognize like, oh, is that us like deflecting our power simply because this person initiated this conversation and continues to say that he wants it to flow organically. So in that way, he is, and we don't need it, but there's like the permission there that we can like there's guidelines, but there's like also no rules. And I also want to empower um Terry, why does that say, to say like to say no, I actually have a reason for sharing this and I'm going to share it, like I think in a lot of like I think there's like something ingrained that we can all like work through. I mean, I know I feel it in myself, and I know I felt it in the last call. I felt like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say this thing because AG is kind of facilitating, but I felt like called to say like, hey, back off, in that situation, and like he and I are friends. I'll just admit, like we have a rapport. So I felt like maybe more comfortable doing that than maybe someone else would. but like in this moment, I'm now like empowering all of you to know that that's available to you.
Mm-hmm. I also want to share, just to
I think
clarify.
Aaron wants to say something.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I just have something really quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, thanks. Yeah, there's something that can be done like with subjects and especially with like time. There could be time limits and a timekeeper and a note taker. In some of my meetings, have those rules designated. Sometimes it's the same person, but in any case, when there's a subject, what can be done is like a thumbs up, like middle or like down, and just like vote like when it's ready to move on. Be like, oh, the time is up. Do we want a 5-minute boost or whatever that is? It's like, and then just like if there's enough thumbs up, then stick on it. If there's not enough, whatever that number is, then move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and the part I wanted to clarify was just that from my perspective, I didn't cut anybody off in that. With at least how I perceived it was like, Carrie, you were reading something and it was beautiful and I was in it, and then it was like all of a sudden you lost your space and it felt kind of like magical what was happening, and I just like felt and was listening to the flow, and like that felt like an opening. So I wasn't trying to cut off, wasn't trying to interrupt. I just felt that missing place, and it felt like that was listening to the flow of energy, was just carrying it and moving it there and keeping the flow moving. And so I didn't mean to cut you off, and that was not what I wished to do at all. But my intention was very much keep the flow of energy moving.
I understand.
Yeah, I believe he was looking through his papers to finish his thoughts, and so I felt if we had a little more space in between, that would help. But then it goes back to the facilitation part, the timing, the space, and I really like. I'm not a structure person, but I do appreciate structure, and I've been in a lot of meetings, especially as a school teacher, and we would have these roles, and we would alternate, and one would be a facilitator, one a timekeeper, one note taker, and then something else. But I like the flow within the structure because you can be very efficient with that.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say one little thing? I do have to go here, but just wanted to add that I think it's beautiful that we're having this dynamic conversation about conversation and community meetings. And it's interesting. In my field in urban planning, you try to bring the community together, and everybody offers an opinion about what they think about this new development. And ultimately, you try to reach some consensus. And I think this is the village dynamic, the village model of how do we organize ourselves? What is this geometry going to look like? And I think it's interesting we're having this conversation because this is reflected in our times. The question is, what is the new kind of model of organization that's forming, that's birthing, that's not like models that have been here before? And I'm hearing kind of like there a lot of different aspects of how the model can look like and what our little parts in it are. And I'll be reflecting in myself tonight. I'll be thinking about what are the models of this new kind of collaborative geometry that's forming in this world, the whole world, in our little circle, and within each one of us. So I think it's reflected in this little microcosm of this little village dynamic we're having, this conversation, which is so beautiful. I'm loving it. I'm writing so many notes down and thinking about other things and reading little books. So that's why I love this time, is that it kind of gives me allowance to your ideas, all your words, like stimulate my mind, and I'm thinking about other things. And then I jump back in. And so I think that's beautiful that we're kind of having this really, really relevant conversation. And thank you so much, guys. And I'll be looking back on this video and parts I missed. Sorry I wasn't here for the whole thing, but I appreciate all of you. Much love, many blessings.
Thanks for being here, Paul. Appreciate you, brother. Cool. So I wonder where we can take this. I feel like we're probably coming to a close very soon. I wonder if there's any sort of points anybody wants to tie in, any key lessons that like people are like really getting, anything we're really getting about what effective communication is, what it requires, what it is to have an open mind, how does that come about, how do we continue to open our minds, and sort of any key lessons that people are really integrating in this space.
Oh, just I'm feeling having just this openness and having this space and keeping our hearts open and going through it together as we are all doing, and just watching this process is beautiful. And so just keeping that center, you know, and keeping that mission statement or the focus or whatever, you know, but like having that I like that spaciousness and heart-centered, and through anything we can succeed. And I'd love to end with a because you mentioned loving kindness, a loving kindness mantra, if you like.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I wanted to Terry, give you an opportunity to finish reading what you wanted to read if you still felt like sharing that.
Yes, I would actually. And I figured
That was literally going to be my share. Perfect.
I had it flipped around the wrong way, so that's my fault. But also, what I had learned the most from this is that I need to have a little bit more patience and probably a bit more humility as well. I do come off very intense. I've always been that way. I have ADHD like crazy. So, all right. The meeting rules or meeting roles are the facilitator, who's the of the meeting. The rudder of the meeting helps the circle stay on topic, guides us through the guides us through the stages of the meeting. Then there's the stack keeper. He keeps track of the order people raise their hand to speak. Then there's the scribe, who records agenda, takes notes during topic discussion, and posts notes after the meeting. Then there's the timekeeper. Keeps time. It's cut off a little bit. Keeps times about topics and alerts the circle. Who is next? Then there's the flow of the circle. We call to gather, assign roles, introduction, centering, propose topics and announce, discern priorities, talk about the things, table the remaining topics, and then close the circle. Then breaking it down for each one of those roles, call to gather the circle. When the time has come or feels the energy move, folks can call the community in to get the circle going. Assign roles. After gathering, it's time to decide who's going to fill the roles for that meeting. Note it's important that roles be rotated regularly to avoid implicit power structures. Introductions. Once you know who's doing what, it's time to go around and see who's in the circle. This is a great time for icebreakers. Centering. Before hopping into the next meeting, or before hopping into the meeting, we find it's helpful to take a moment to take breath. We often take 1 to 2 minutes to meditate or reflect on the kind of presence we wish to bring to the circle. Agenda setting. Next, it's time to open the agenda for topic proposals. Be sure to bring forward any tabled topics from the last meeting that we had described right down. Sometimes folks get excited by a topic and want to dive right in. As a circle, help the meeting stay focused by gently keeping this time focused or simply proposing topics, not discussion. This is also an appropriate time for announcements. Discerning priorities. Now that you have your agenda, it's time to arrange it in a way that makes sense. Questions to ask and what definitely needs discussing and what topics go well together. And you talk about the things. Then you table the remaining topics. If you run out of time or energy, record the topics left and include them in the next meeting. Closing the circle. Yay, we did it. Take another mindful moment before breaking circle, a breath or two, taking some time to look around the circle and making a hum or an om together are a great way to bring closure to the meeting. There's a lot of work to do, but it's good work and it's good to do the work. That's the pamphlet. Thank you. I really appreciate that, AG.
For sharing, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would love if you were able and interested, I'd love to see it at some point. If you have a photo or something that you could share with the group.
Yeah, the words become a little hard for me to follow, but sometimes the
I
visual is
understand. But
supportive.
when I take the picture, I'll take pictures of each page, and then I think I'm gonna post them on my Facebook so that everybody that might be interested in such a thing will have access. But my Facebook is Terry Turnbloom, TerryTurnblom, and they'll be available there.
Thank you so much. That was such good stuff.
Very welcome. Much love.
I'm feeling very alive in a share. So I am really grateful for seeing this entire arc of my experience in this conversation. I moved through some frustration, not knowing what we were talking about. Got really excited when we started talking about how we talk about what we're talking about, and then seeing a resolution point that comes back into the question that I came into this conversation with, which was what works from the old system. And I'm seeing communication structure as being really important from my perspective, for my needs in conversation. I would love to say that I'm a person who, as soon as I feel something, I just have the space to interject it and be like, I'm feeling this, actually I want to steer that way. But then I also will defer to kind of a group dynamic, whereas I don't want to potentially harm somebody and speak over them or drastically shift a conversation. I know that's it gets to that bluntness, which can be super amazing in conversation and can get to some really raw, real things, but it can also shut down the conversation altogether. And it's not out of a fear of shutting down the conversation, it's out of having seen it before. And so Caitlin's share of moving towards, slowly moving towards that, creating that container, I think is my biggest takeaway of yes, there are some major shifts happening in the world and things are falling away, but we're still here. And yeah, that's where I'm at, is I see that works, and I really value that that's where the conversation went. And I love talking about communication itself. So thank you for playing into my excitement. I love you all unconditionally. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you. Good night.
All right, friends. Oh, AG, you're speaking, but you're muted. So I'm going to share really fast because Ocean's crying, and I'm going to take this as my cue to exit. Just thank you so much. This was such a centering and great source of both the North Star and attention to the boat and everything else. And I appreciate you all and look forward to where it all leads from here. So thank you, love you, love you, love you, thank you. Good night.
We're gonna sing "Loving Kindness" if you want to stick around.
I will feel love and kindness with you as I take care of my baby, because crying babies are hard to meditate through.
I'll send you a song.
Thank you. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
I'd like to just give my love and appreciation to everybody. You're all amazing. Thank you for doing the work. You inspire me. Have a wonderful night.
Good night.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for creating safe spaces for people, for us, for me.
Love you.
Yeah, what's coming through in terms of like golden nugget. I don't know, this is a long one. But it's really like there's this sense of allowance and navigating through like this journey of communication, of speaking to be heard, speaking to respond, speaking to react, like asking what is the value of like my speaking right now, and like how can I do more listening, how can I like balance the speaking and the listening. Just asking those questions always. And yeah, I just want to share like when Aaron spoke about the like it being on Facebook Live and broadcasting it, like I too kind of have like forgotten that piece, even though it says that right there in the corner. And I am actually really surprised at how much I'm able to forget that, because I'm very self-conscious about speaking, but I'm finding myself like speaking, and I think that that's very interesting. So I'm just looking at that in myself, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure where like I'm not really sure. I really appreciate everyone coming on and having these conversations and like making it feel so comfortable to like go into some weird areas, and like that somehow we always like come to these really beautiful moments at the end is really fascinating to me. And I just like really appreciate our collective humanness and this portal that we're going through. And I really like, I wish everyone like the greatest level of health in this time, and like really that we are taking the precautions. I just found out that a friend of mine is like very sick and like may have this virus. So it's like getting closer, I feel, to us. And I'm feeling that. And I just, yeah, I really believe that this thing is real. And I really believe that it's important for us to really take that into consideration. So I'm just saying that. And yes, thank you so much. And good night. Sweet dreams all. Be so safe and so hold yourselves. So good.
Oh, I can't see other people, participants. Oh. Yeah.
Were you about to share, Mandy?
Oh,
I don't have to. You just unmuted yourself, so I just. creating space for you to share. But
I don't know if anyone else wants to share, but
yeah.
I'd love to sing a song whenever
Yeah.
you guys want to.
Cool. I'll do my personal share, and then yeah, we can
Okay.
hear your song. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely appreciating everybody for coming in and being present in the container. I
Appreciate you,
reflect a lot of what Katie shared. Just continuing to witness the growth in all of us in the container, and witnessing it in myself. Like for me, it's been continuing to learn what it is to step up and be present as a leader in these spaces, not as the leader, but as a leader within these spaces, and learn how to effectively communicate and what it is to really be honest and take a stand and like really show up and continue to learn to listen deeper, learn to really be present with a deeper and wider space. And so yeah, for me the lessons just keep unfolding. I'm trying to think if there's like one epic takeaway from this. I think a lot of it has been the big takeaway for me in this one has been learning that like we have all this conditioning as humans that like tends to want to defend, attack, and all of that, and like in all of us, myself included, and learning that in general, just being present and taking a stand and not reacting. It's a lesson I've been learning with this little 2.5-year-old. Not to react, not to react to someone when they're coming at me, but to just stay present, stay present, stay in a loving space and receive. Because then in doing so, my own perceptions can be cleared. Because it could be like I'm perceiving this person's coming at me, and that's just my own perception. And so I'm really learning what it is to stay in a really receptive space and stay present with the whole group energy rather than like trying to focus on one particular thing. So I'm learning a lot more about just really attentiveness and inclusion and how important that is in being able to facilitate effective communication and being able to stay in a really like clear space within myself as well. And so those are some of the key lessons for me. Sweet.
Beautiful.
Take it away, Mandy.
Okay. If you wanted to look up the lyrics, it's loving kindness. I just started typing the lyrics. Loving kindness for all beings from the one beyond the stars. If you wanted to look up lyrics, or you can just sing along. So first, before we start though, let's just take a few breaths together. All right, so it's a mantra that you just sing over and over. So you can sing along if you have the lyrics or just with me. So here we go. Loving kindness for all beings from the one beyond the stars, through the darkness into light, we behold the gift of peace. Loving kindness for all beings from the one beyond the stars, through the darkness into light, we behold the gift of peace. Loving kindness for all beings from the one beyond the stars, through the darkness into light, we behold the gift of peace. Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate everyone so much for being here and for joining the conversations today, and yeah, just coming and showing up as you. And so may these continue forward. May the conversations and the connections keep flowing in all the spaces, and may we continue to show up for ourselves, our families, our communities in the world in a really good way. So I appreciate everyone and all the ways that you're showing up for the world, and I look forward to connecting more with you guys in the future. So thank you all so much.
Blessings. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, ho, 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 ho,
So silly.
I love you all. I'm doing laughter yoga at 9 a.m. Central Time. If you want to join me, I'm gonna go to bed now so I can wake up and do that.